You're gonna think Imperial go through. Let's go.
Actually, well, look, I think there's a real conversation though to be had. We can whack big in. We can whack big in just quickly. Look, whack them in, put them in. But I think there's a real conversation about FURIA potentially going 3-0, right?
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Bomb has been planted.
Hey buddy, let me show you how to fix that. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell skins instantly. Deposit and withdraw funds instantly with crypto or directly to your Visa card. Bitskins.com, the best skin marketplace.
HLTV Confirmed Season 6, Episode 16, Friday the 13th, the Spooktacular Haunted Mid-Major Special. I don't know if it is that, but it is Friday the 13th. That's confirmed. It's probably brought to you in conjunction with Xtrfy. If you want to be extra fly, get yourself some Xtrfy. Xtrfy.com for all your peripheral needs. That's a tagline I've made for them. Maybe it'll stick. Bitskins, buy and sell CSGO skins and items, and N1 bet, gamble responsibly. The 17th CSGO Major is well and truly underway. The Challenger stage has come to a close. 8 teams have been eliminated. 8 teams have progressed. And on tonight's show, we'll be breaking it all down. Lucas is back in the production seat to keep the wheels on this ship. And I know that ships don't have wheels. That's the joke. All right. Joined by the turtleneck connoisseur, Prof. What has inspired tonight's evening wear?
Looking good with minimal effort. It's called the black t-shirt.
Okay. All right. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. All right. We have a verified stickler for the rules. Striker, will you be handing out any red cards this evening?
Based on rules?
Based on anything, mate. You get to determine. You're the man who does it all by the book.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man.
Okay. Gonna have to wait and see.
Maybe he needs to give one to himself after what he said about a certain Brazilian team. I'm just gonna put it out there.
You're gonna give yourself a yellow card, a red card?
I think that's a yellow card, yeah.
A yellow card.
Sounding strong.
Yeah.
All right.
Just like the first warning, you know?
Well, I want chat to keep control, keep tabs, or control of Striker and the card system that we'll be having going on this evening. And, all right, hold up a second. Give me a moment. Let me just center myself. And our special guest, 2-time major winner, French Counter-Strike legend, the Kingmaker, Nathan MBK Schmidt. Shower us in your knowledge, Nathan. First question, one-word answer only. Who is winning the major?
FURIA.
FURIA. Okay, fair enough. Look, I wanted to try and catch you off guard there, see if you'd go with Imperial or something, see if you were really going to pander the fans right out the gates here. But it's good to have you with us. It's good to have you tonight to diagnose what we've seen throughout the Challenger stage so far. But you know what, Nathan? I want to ask you some juicy questions. And to do that, we need to get into the hot seat. So, Lucas, roll the bumper. All right, here's what we're going to do, everybody playing at home. If you don't know MBK, Google him. But I'm going to give you a little quick summary. I said he was a two-time major winner, and I said he was a French Counter-Strike legend. But I want to give them the recent history, Nathan, and then I want to get stuck on in with what's happened in 2022. So we'll go back to 2021. So you were benched from OG in early 2021. You competed briefly with Double Pony. You made the shift to Valorant in June of 2021 and returned to CSGO in early 2022 with MOUZ. Can you bring us up to speed with what's gone on since the whole, well, not since, but with the whole MOUZ sports situation this year? For those aren't familiar, there was JDC from the academy team, and there was some changes, and BMS wasn't there, and it all happened. So do you want to give us a little bit of a debrief from your perspective on that whole MOUZ situation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can keep it pretty simple. I think everything went quite well. Obviously, the results were not like exactly there because we're like building something and trying to get into a good shape and like really starting pretty much not from zero, but like really starting things off. And yeah, I don't know, things were going good. We had a direction, we had some pillars that we wanted to rely on and to build upon and be good, in like X amount of time to be sure that we had like some bases and foundations. And then we come back from ESL Pro League where we didn't pass group stages. And I just got brought on TeamSpeak to just be told that I'm being benched as of today. And I'm being replaced by JDC. And that's pretty much it, really. Like, it didn't go much further than that. On my side, like I was very, very happy to be back competing. And I know I came in with like a fresh energy and fresh positive attitude in everything I was doing, and I know that's the feedback that I got from every single person. And that's literally it. It just came down to the fact that the coach of the team, Cyclone, ranks JDC as a better player than me for this roster, and I think that's really it. And yeah, nobody really gave an answer other than that as to why I was getting benched. So that's it. That's what the most experience was.
Yeah, it happened all very quickly, didn't it? Right. I think it caught everybody off guard to see that happen. And I think for a lot of people, you were kind of brought on in to be the experienced elder statesman because Dexter is the in-game leader of the team. Who's sure he's a bit older, but he's not hugely experienced as far as international Counter-Strike went. So they had a bunch of young guns. Torgy's there, obviously Frozen as well. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, BMS is in the mix, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, they need some veterancy as all of this. And then yeah, you just gets ripped off like a bit of a band-aid here, and a lot of faith has been put into these young guns. So I think it blindsided the Counter-Strike world as much as it did you. Striker and Prof, do you have any questions here that you want to throw Nathan's way regarding this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you hindsight to 2020 and whatever, but like obviously when you look back, the entire move didn't really pay off the way that MOUZ probably expected, because they said they thought they just had a better chance at the major with JDC than you, right? That was the entire logic,
Aged like
basically.
fine wine.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying, right? So my question basically is, do you feel like, first of all, that kind of like that Katowice performance, especially like in the opening stages, kind of made the team decide this way? And second of all, do you feel like it was premature to kind of think of JDC as this, at least complete player ready to play at a major and be better than like as a veteran than you are, right?
I think one of the big things you can see probably from the time I was in MOUZ, and not really comparing to JDC directly, but what I was bringing was consistency, and especially against the top teams. When we're playing against the Vitality, the NIPs, they are like really at the top level. And like I know those guys forever. Like when they started, when they came on the scene, like I know how they operate, and I don't have any problem bringing something to the table during those games. I'm like holding my own no matter what. And I think there was something that I was doing inside and outside of the game. But then talking about just JDC and the point that he replaced me directly, and him as a player, I think he is a good player. Definitely doesn't have the experience that I have in that sense, obviously. And the results of MOUZ are what they are. Maybe it would have been different if I was in a team, maybe not. That's impossible to say. I just know that I'm very confident that if we kept that iteration of the roster, we would have made it probably to the major and further, because I was very confident about the things we could improve, like within 3 weeks, to really be on our best level, really. And I don't really think that's what happened in like Katowice, where we actually had a decent showing with a stand-in. as well as ESL Pro League were necessarily the results of things that I did wrong necessarily in the game, and like that it would make us improve a lot to just change me in a roster to like bring another piece in it. So I think it's more like a trying to get the player in to like giving experience and then be better in the future, maybe. But like I feel like there were some pieces that were missing in those tournaments that made us not go through, instead of me not bringing more as needed. And then to me, that's why it was very confusing to me as the whole approach, and why I was changed that quickly, because I don't feel like with the plan that we had and what we wanted to work on, and it made a lot of sense. That's how I felt.
Yeah. I mean, I just agree in general. That is like my take as well. Of course, like long term, maybe it's gonna work out, but like it didn't make either. There wasn't a lot of forethought, or it wasn't like a perfect timing. But you know, there is never a perfect timing in CS to make any changes in some way. So yeah, just a rough. I think the question that I want to ask is, and what a lot of people were thinking about initially, that's like, your toxic attitude problems or whatever, because they said JDC had a good attitude. So then reverse engineer that quote and read between the lines. And like, this is what I usually do as well. But in this case, I don't think that was actually the problem, because like talking to Cyclone directly and like talking to people in MOUZ later on, everyone said like the atmosphere is great. We just thought this guy was, 3% better, 5% better, and that's it. But like, do you think like, is there any bad blood about how it all transpired, and like moving forward, what are you doing essentially? I think that's where you go next.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it hit me pretty hard because I didn't play for like 8 months or something like that, and I was extremely happy in MOUZ. Like I was really back in a position where I felt like everything was great, like in my life. Like being a Counter-Strike player is what I do for like 12 years now, close to 13, and I need this to be happy, right? Like on a daily basis, and especially with the environment that we created working with a sports psych for the whole team, and what we built together as a basis with what was already there. I was just happy. Everything was going great, right? And so yeah, that's why it's very confusing, and there is not that much to say in the end. It's just the coach thought, and maybe MOUZ as well, I don't really know, that JDC being 5%, 10% player from his point of view was the way for them to be a better and greater team, which I personally don't agree with. I think there are a lot of things in Counter-Strike teams that are very that would allow you to achieve different things. And so you can have different approach. And to me, replacing a player because he's 5-10% better is not necessarily the answer. And that's also an opinion. If he thinks that JDC is 5-10% better than I do, I have my own ego as a player, right? Like I think I'm a better player than JDC. And I proved it, and I will prove it if needed. That's not really the question. Like he's a good player, but I will obviously think that I'm a greater player. And so it's just that part that stung, because it just came out of nowhere, like after a tournament where we talked like, yeah, we want to improve this and that. And so again, yeah, that's why there's not that much to say really. Everything went well. There was no toxicity. Everything was very positive. Actually, I was bringing a lot of that positivity, especially inside games during the tournament when we needed like that extra energy. It's something that I didn't do for several years, and now I came in and I brought a lot of those things, right? Like a lot of energy, and JDC does it as well, for example, all those core values and attitude. But I think that with the experience that I have, I can bring also something that JDC can't bring for the moment, with different skill sets. So but yeah, no, nothing came down to being a toxic teammate or not liking each other. We still have a very good relationship with everyone. It was a bit harder with Cyclone at the beginning when that happened, but outside of that, I think it's just a pretty shitty situation, right? Like either you don't sign me, or you give me a proper shot to make something happen in the team. And that's why like that in between to me is just a bit odd. Like I just don't understand it.
But that's the crazy part from my perspective, is you were just there like for not very long at all. Like you'd just been signed. They played a couple of events. The type of Counter-Strike that they had you playing, like not you specifically, but the team, I was like, okay, well, the first one they have a stand-in, so they're going to be a little bit more free here. But then at Pro League, I was like, what are we doing? Baby's first Counter-Strike with slow defaults every round? I was like, there's nothing going on here. Like, was that what it was like when you were playing, that they were like, okay, let's strip it all the way back and let's do the basics? Because when I was watching Pro League, that's what it looked like. I'm watching slow defaults. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot going on across the map. It was pretty bland stuff.
Yeah, I do like the global approach of Dexter as a leader. I like the idea that he has in the way that he's thinking and all that kind of stuff. And I think that part where you said that things were pretty slow in the blend, like it's hard to me to say it like from 2 tournaments, just like rewatching the games, because I'm just more rewatching me trying to get into the pace of the game and being good again. But that's the kind of things, for example, that already changed within the roster, because I came in and I said, I talked to Dexter to be in accordance with him, that I wanted to be much more aggressive. And so, sorry, just some stuff happening here. and so I want to be much more aggressive within the team. And so, for example, against, I mean, I think just the stats overall show that on the T side especially. But on the City side, they didn't really get too much of a chance because I was still playing, those very passive positions like B-side Mirage and all of those things. So that's why it was a bit hard to balance both being hyper aggressive on T side and being hyper passive on City side for the most part. And so that's the kind of play that I want to bring into my next team or anything, to bring exactly what you're talking about, a bit of a spy, space changer, those things that are a bit just catching people off guard, being more aggressive, and just the kind of Counter-Strike that you see at the moment. For example, Vitality is the team that does that excellently. They're just pressuring all over the map, and like people are taking a bit more their timings and their plays and being more aggressive, playing their duels. And at times, yeah, it probably lacked a little bit. But I think there was also a part of confidence. For example, Frozen, he's an excellent player. You can throw him in so many situations where he's going to be aggressive, like putting him in whatever situation and he's going to kill people. And I feel like for the 2 events, at least, that I was there, it was not necessarily the case. He was not like very confident, was not very in his zone, like he was not playing very well. And now he's getting that confidence back for X or Y reason. Maybe JDC did that, and that's good for them. But I feel like if we had those pieces, for example, that were better while I was here, the results like would change slightly. For example, we would pass groups instead of not passing them. And so to me, it's those things are adding up, those small things that make us that would have made the team more dynamic overall, having a bit more confidence into some players and putting them into some situations.
Okay.
And so yeah, that was the balance. I came in a hyper aggressive to like balance that, and we tried to make it work. But yeah, it's very hard to say in such a small sample of like 25 maps played.
Yeah, there wasn't enough. Wasn't enough played, was there? Yeah.
But
Okay.
actually, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, hold up.
Okay, never mind. We're back.
We're back. All right,
Yeah,
Nathan. I
okay.
want to ask, right? So right now you're benched on MOUZ, right? But what does the future hold, or what are you hoping for the future to hold?
I don't like not doing anything. Yeah,
Who
that
does?
doesn't make sense. I like to do things, and so despite being put on the bench, I still think I have things to show. So like I've been working a lot on the meta of the game. I analyzed a lot of the top teams on every single map. Just general global things of the meta, how they were playing and all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like with what I showed in MOUZ, I'm ready to, if a team needs it and gives me time a little bit to get into it, to like lead a team properly with all of the experience and the things that happen. And I know it's something that people are going to be skeptical, and probably yourself, Chad, as well, because it happened in the past. But like it was, if you look at it from a pragmatic point of view, it was few months with coaching staff that didn't believe in me, with organizations that didn't really believe in me, and so it was hard to like really get into it. And so I want to have a shot with, even if it's a lower tier team, for example, that needs to progress with youngsters, to really build something, because I still think I have a lot of years playing. And so either getting in a team where there's a need of like outside leadership and someone taking IGL and I can complete, just like it was in MOUZ. I was very happy doing that. But I'm also ready to jump into leading full time and ending my career like that, basically. Because I feel like I'm confident about doing it with all the work I've been putting with my sports psychologist and everything that I've learned. And so, yeah, that's what the future holds. There's the major going and all that kind of stuff. I've been talking to several teams, but nothing really concrete at the moment. But yeah, those are my wishes, and I want to be more aggressive as well, more in the game. I think that the support etiquette player doesn't necessarily fit me too well anymore. I think to be really happy in a game, I want to be more aggressive, more in the action, more impactful, and just by the presence of being there. So yeah, that's a general idea. Nothing set, nothing to come in like change jersey and that kind of stuff and be ready, sadly. But yeah, that's my wish, and hopefully I have some trust from people in that.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, go for it, Striker.
from the way you're talking about it, it almost sounds like it's kind of like a job that for a coach a lot of the time, you know, if you want to talk about global meta and kind of like the general approach to the game and stuff like that. I mean, obviously you've kind of referred to it yourself that you'd rather be playing, but if the right offer came, you know, if it was actually a top team, you know, one that you feel like you could maybe help from a coaching position, would you consider that?
The thing is, I find complicated. I would like it on a principle that I'm quite sure I'm going to try coaching as soon as I'm done playing. The thing that I find hard is, like, for example, the Emmy example that has been coaching some teams, and then he's back as a player, and then he goes back to coaching, then comes back as a player, and that's something that for me there's no shot, because I want to compete at still the highest level in the biggest leagues, ESL Pro Leagues, Blast, all those kind of things. Even though I have to go back to it, like I know I still have the level to be in there, and I can contribute to any team being a part in there, and you know, going high. So going into coaching to me gives a bad like outside look from teams that would like want to recruit me in the future or want to make anything like that. And not that I care too much about that, but it still plays into the mind of people like, oh, he's a coach now, and then he's gonna come back, then he's gonna be like in a tier 2, tier 3 team and whatever. No, like I'm still here to be a player. I'm training every day. I'm maintaining my level. I'm trying as much as I can to be motivated for the next team and to get the level. I've been working very hard on the meta and like creating my own game, my own identity as a leader, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm ready. Like I'm 70, 80% of the way there. Just the last 20% are going to be just with the team, working with the team, creating like the things that are remaining. But overall, that's the plan. And coaching is going to be in the future. Like I'm
Wait to get well into your 30s, mate.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah,
27 still, yeah.
Yeah.
You started super young, so probably people think you're older than you are.
Yeah, probably. And that's okay. To me, like also there's a part of you have to prove it on the server regardless. Like it's not because I say I have experience or I say I'm good or whatever. It has to be shown as well that you can have impact in the game. And that requires watching games, because impact is not necessarily stats, because I don't give a fuck about stats. Like it never will. It's all about being impactful, getting the entries, getting the important rounds and the important clutches and stuff.
So how impactful is Blame F? You have
well, we're gonna get to that
sentence.
one. Come on.
Okay, we'll leave this. Well, prepare your answer, and we'll get to this.
He changed. Later. I'm gonna say that he changed. That's my teaser.
I agree with that sentiment. Definitely when we get there. Yeah. So Nathan, would you be, because I think with a lot of what you're saying here, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, but I'm sure there's a lot of teams from this region I'm about to mention who might be looking for somebody exactly what you're trying to do right now in the future. Would you be open to a move for like to help North America?
That's the question, right?
Yeah, it's a big question though, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, I am. This the system that I want to create is a bit more liberal, with like more power to the players. They can take like some decision, and I think NA players are good for that. I think what the NA scene and NA teams, they need like a general direction, because they've always been good players that can think and communicate properly. And so if you can just direct that to like group ideas that you're just going the same direction regardless of what moves you do, then you can have good results. And yeah, it's something that also like to be spending more time in America and all that kind of stuff that I already thought about and that I'm ready to do. Also discuss like in my environment with my girlfriend and stuff like that. You know, we're ready on like on all those parts. Everything is ready. And so yeah, it would be a possibility. I've been discussing slightly like a little bit with team, but like mostly people will wait for the end of the major anyway and all that kind of stuff. And I also understand that some teams might be skeptical about getting me as a leader with like the things that happened in the past, but I don't know, like just I feel like I really changed, and like I still have the mindset to do that, have everything ready. I can kind of prove the evolution and the change, and that's all I can do really. And if it takes for me to like grind again from tier 2 and try to qualify to all those events, then to me it's just about having a team with potential. I know how to exploit potential, and I will in my teams no matter what. It's just not a 2 days process, right? Like you need to have like kind of an idea of how the players are and how to put them in the best positions. And to me, that's what I look at in teams. It's just potential. I don't see what the players are necessarily at the moment and all that kind of stuff, but how good can a player be in a system, and that's it. And so that's why in America, I think there is a lot of potential to do that. But yeah, it needs to be in the same point of view and in the same direction.
PLDR, NBK to North America.
Yeah, look,
HLTV confirmed.
I think like
Taking a place.
there's been some risks taken by North American orgs in recent history that and you're nowhere near as risky as some of the risks that they've made, right? So yeah, there's definitely plenty of opportunities out there. I think after this major, that's when we're going to get into the silly season of all the roster changes. But that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we've buttoned up the journey of MBK to this point. Now, the reason, Nathan, we brought you on here this evening is to help us dissect the major. And you've been saying you've been, with the global meta and all this, that, and the other. So, and we want to get your insight. But before we get there, we have to do Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. Now, are you familiar with this?
I've seen it. I don't remember it, because I've seen several things on your show. So I need to see what it is, and I'm going to remember it then.
That's all right. Tonight, I actually did my prep today, Matt. I got up early, went for a walk, had a couple coffees. I wrote some stuff down. So look, we're going to get to Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, powered by Bitskins. 5 multiple choice questions, 5 skin tiers, and 1 lucky winner. Type Bitskins in Twitch chat now to enter the draw. Each question MBK gets correct shifts the slider up a notch. Each notch correlates to a skin price tag, and with the top prize tier being a $50 skin. So there you go. See, we've summarized that one quite quickly. Tonight's theme is the PGL Antwerp Challenger stage. MBK, are you ready?
I'm going to do my best, chat.
Okay, here we go.
I'm going to really do my best. Let's get
This is peer pressure at an all-time high. All right, let's get stuck into things here. Question number 1. I've got it up. I should probably. Do you have the link? Never mind. I can just read it. Fuck it. The youngest player in the Legends stage is Crimbo, Monacy, or Yabi?
I saw it. Okay, I have 50 seconds. Okay, there's plenty of time. I'm sure it's not Monacy. It's between Yabi and Crimbo. And
Why do you think it's not Monacy?
because I saw it, like I can remember there was a post somewhere, like if there was a post somewhere, and I'm quite sure it's not Monacy.
I'll just say that was for the Challenger stage.
Yeah,
Maybe some of the people didn't advance from the Challenger stage.
We have Striker
maybe
here
that
as
was
assist if required.
The youngest one I think was a IHC member, so maybe it's Monacy actually. No, that you say it, because it's not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Okay, I think it's gonna be Monacy then. I think it's gonna be, because I think it was IHC and then the HC player and then Monacy.
All right, I've locked in Monacy. The correct answer is Monacy.
Okay.
Prof's done you a solid right there. I think it was Techno 4K as the youngest. But it's not by a lot, right? We're talking a couple months.
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, I did say it was about the Challenger stage, and it was about the Legend stage right there. So I baited you in there as well. So first one correct, 1 out of 1. All right, let's get into question number 2. How many teams from the top 16 in Stockholm are back in the top 16 of Antwerp? 8, 10, or 12?
Does that
Imperial, BNE
I'm with you.
was in the top 16 in Stockholm. Okay. Wait, who the fuck qualified? Okay, I forgot that part already.
Spirit, I want to say.
It's probably gonna be 10 or 12. 8 seems very low.
Now, Spirit, what did you say? Spirit, Imperial.
BNE, that's
Not
3.
in there.
Big didn't make top 16
Big
last
was not
time.
in there. That's 4. Wait, who else? Any Danish team? Astralis. So I think it's 10.
Okay.
I think it's 10, because if it's 5, then it's.
Who did you?
I would
Who did
say
you?
10.
Who did you mention now?
I've had to lock it in.
Imperial, Big, Astralis. 12. Close.
Maybe Prof did it wrong.
No, Astralis, because he mentioned Astralis and Astralis didn't qualify. And he mentioned the teams that did qualify this time. So he just merged it together. Because Spirit, Imperial.
Yeah, I was going the other way around. So like Imperial,
but he was
BNE
trying to
qualified, so
subtract,
like, others are.
Yeah, but then you added
it's
Spirit, then you added Astralis, who didn't qualify for the top 16 this time.
Yeah,
And
so
one of those spots is Imperial, essentially. Or whoever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
You started well. You started well.
Yeah.
We've got 1 out of 2. We're halfway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a bunch more questions to go. So we can salvage this. There's still a $15 skin available for the people at home here. All right.
The
There's gonna be-
Glock looks very good anyway. So
yeah.
that's fine.
Well, the Galil. They're guaranteed the Galil. That's for sure. All right. Question number 3. Who said, I think a lot of us are tired of dealing with the bullshit in an interview for Dust2.us? Stewie2K, Yakinda, or NAF?
I mean, I don't really know why Stu and I would say that. I would assume it's Yakinda because there's obviously a lot of bullshit happening. So it would be very obvious. If that's not the case, that would be a mega debate. But
Dust to US though.
I don't know
Yeah,
if you're
but-
trying to hint him in the right or wrong directions here, bro. I don't know the answer.
I
to this one.
know the answer. If you want to get some
Strike of the
get
I'm
it.
lifeline.
dealing with the bullshit because
These are
Oh
hard
my
questions.
God.
Fuck you,
Nah,
prof.
Not easy, yeah.
Help him out, Striker, because I got no idea.
It's not.
I would say it can.
It's NAF?
Snap.
It's not. Yeah.
What's the bullshit he was alluding to then? I want to
Yeah.
know.
It wasn't. It was nothing to do with like the major. I think it specifically is more like how they've been playing before or something like that. I don't
I
remember.
think I was
exactly
saying
what the
talking
reference-
about like the previous team and the history of NA teams and Liquid versus the new Liquid, which actually play like a
Jesus.
team now.
God damn it, Prof. Why have you made the questions so
Just-
hard? Did you wake up?
yeah.
Did you wake up grumpy today or something?
Bro,
What's going
I
on?
went to the gym. It's like a small group thing, and the guy destroyed us. He was literally like,
But now you're destroying Nathan.
and now I'm just like pushing it. Like someone did something to him like yesterday. He brought the pain to us this morning, and then now I'm doing it to NBK.
I'm sorry, Nathan. He's normally not.
Pay
like
it
this, I
forward.
promise.
It's okay.
Oh,
That's all right.
Maybe it gets easier here in the last two. Question number 4.
I don't think so.
Fucking hell, he's setting you up here. Okay, despite the CT side meta, one map is 50-50 in terms of CTT win rate so far. Which is it? Inferno, Mirage, or Dust 2?
We're talking about the major, right? Like I mean, the
Yeah.
challenger stage.
Yeah,
There was a lot of T rounds on Mirage for sure. There was a lot of stomps on City side, like on Inferno and Dust 2. Those are the things that I can remember the most, but I can't remember a lot of stomps on Mirage City. Like I know teams like Vitality and stuff are winning a lot of rounds on T side.
Mm-hmm.
So and like overall, Mirage can always like get some rounds in, like somehow, some way.
Be execute or 2, or it tends to work.
Yeah, exactly. Just be rush, be executed, do like 10 times in a row, and then some rounds are gonna work out more or less.
You want to lock in Mirage here?
Yeah, I'll go Mirage.
Lock in
what I can
Mirage.
think of.
Yeah, that's the one I'm pretty sure it is. Because there was a while there, Overpass.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There was a while there, Overpass was actually like a T-sided map after like 3 or 4 maps played, I think it was. I definitely didn't end that way, but I think early on in the tournament, it was looking like Overpass. Because we did have stomps early on in the event. All right, let's get into
Yeah.
number 5. Which player brought the most points in the Challenger Stage Fantasy? 156 from 5 maps. Zywoo, Spinks, or Hunter?
I apologize.
Wow. I have no idea.
Well, I had
From
him in my
5 maps,
fantasy
like, that's
team, so
2 and then 3 maps. Did G2 go 3 maps to qualify? Who did you pay to qualify?
oh wait, is this without the booster? Without the roll?
This is just pure points. Yeah,
So it's without the roll.
yeah.
So from
Fuck.
5 maps, so who did G2 play to qualify?
They who they beat. I think it was a 2-1. Was it forZe? No, not forZe.
No.
ENCE. ENCE was a
Okay.
2-1.
That was a 3 map.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it works for 2, and
Vitality.
Vitality went 3 maps as well.
Astralis,
Vitality
yeah.
was a 2-0.
Was the Astralis?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what?
Consensus.
I'll go with Spinks. I mean, I saw him had like 30 bombs on Ancient and stuff, so I think I'll go with Spinks, Rifler, entry.
I'll lock it in. I'll lock it in, but I
That's
wanted
too
to
many
advise
players.
you otherwise. It has to be Zywoo. It has to be the Woo.
He just okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
literally.
no matter what.
I apologize.
Well,
It
you know
was-
what we're going to do here? Here's what we're going to do. Because Prof's put some hard questions today. So to punish him, it's going to be taken out of his pay packet if Martin's still watching. We're going to give away the $50 skin because these questions, I'm not happy with it. And it's the major. So we're going to be giving...
Maybe next time I get someone else to do the questions because
You're running out of
I'm
ideas, aren't you?
running,
Yeah,
it's
right.
really-
Striker,
yeah,
next time
okay.
you're doing the questions, all right?
Fair enough.
We're going to put the shoe on the other foot. You'll be coming up next with the questions. All right. We're going to give away the $50 skin here. We're going to let Nathan off the hook, right? Because I'm sure he's going to talk some
Sorry, guys.
Some big stuff about some teams coming up soon that's going to get everybody's hairs on the neck picking on up. But all right, keep typing Bitskins. We're going to draw a winner right here, right now. I think we probably already have. And the winner is Lies FM, LY or LYES FM. Anyway, it is LYES FM. Following since 2021. Congratulations. Our people will reach out to your people and we'll get you the skin. And we're very generous around here. So you'll be getting yourself the $50 skin. Is it still the knife, Lucas? Are we still giving out the knife?
Yes.
So we just bought the same skin a million times.
Yeah. Maybe we actually
No, I think we
had an
changed
effect.
skins.
Did we change the knife?
I think we changed the knife.
I don't think we changed the knife.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Anyway, breaking news. Hunden going to Valorant and instantly denied by Hunden, saying he's not going to Valorant, hasn't been contacted, and will never go to Valorant. So there we go. It's confirmed and unconfirmed in 30 seconds.
Who broke the news?
I'm not gonna name. I'm not gonna name some
random CS.
Maybe not.
Non-CS relevant anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, who cares? Okay.
Twitter reporters. Let's go.
All right. We've done Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. That was powered by Bitskins. And now it's time for us to get into the major conversation, right? This was a nice little, I guess, way to warm in. It wasn't very warming. It was very harsh. It was very brutal. It was a bit more like a slap in the face right there. But look, guys, we'll be taking a ad break in about 30 minutes time, but we're just going to keep the conversation going. And that's the reason we're here. And that's we want to talk about all this major bits and bobs from the challenger stage. Now, guys, I've been trying to work out the best way to do this conversation, right? To break it all down, to cover off on everything. Now, I just quickly want to run through how the teams progressed, and then I've broken most teams down into these different like buckets, right? I think I've probably skipped a couple here. And as I go through these buckets, if you disagree, right, or you have a point you want to make about one of these teams, feel free to like chime on in, because there's some of them which we don't need to talk about, but there's some of them which we definitely do. So for those who missed it, progressing to the legend stage with a 3-0 record was Vitality and G2. Progressing with a 3-1 was ENCE, Spirit, and Outsiders. And progressing with a 3-2 was Imperial, Liquid, and the Bad News Eagles. Eliminated in the 0-3 column was Renegades and 9Z. In the 1-3 column, it was IHC, Complexity, and Eternal Fire. And in the last day of play, going down 2-3 was forZe, Astralis, and MIBR. Now, the buckets that I've broken these teams up to, and as I said, I've definitely missed a couple here, is as expected, exceeded expectations, and disappointing. Right. So as expected, I think like Eternal Fire, Renegades, IHC, MIBR, like yeah.
I mean, I guess expected results wise for IHC, yes, but I think the CS that they showed was better than I think people would have expected. A lot of them had them for their 0-3, and I actually thought that there was a chance that they would go 0-3, but I think they surprised me with how decent they look for, playing in Asia for the entire time that they've basically been together. Like they've basically never ever had experience with playing against European CS, and they actually came in playing a brand of CS that we've never really seen from an Asian team. So like I was positively surprised by how their protocols actually looked kind of European. Obviously they had gaps, like you could tell that they don't have the experience, but the idea was behind it.
I mean, they do kind of play against Europeans just on 100 ping. Like they do actually practice. They do practice some European teams. So, and they play like European face it. So there is that kind of how to say, an influence. The influence is there. It's not like you just saw something that happened out of thin air. There is actually a reason why they play like that. I just didn't think that they would actually be able to be competitive against good teams. And to be honest, like they weren't. Like they beat Renegades, that's cool, and they are competitive against Complexity and Imperial, both teams that I don't think are amazing. So essentially against the teams that you need to beat to get to the next stage, didn't really see them have a chance, but like they were slightly better. I agree, they were slightly better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Imperial and Complexity, I think there are still like 2 good games that they played. Obviously, Astralis, you just come in and you play like, I think it was T-side nuke against Astralis trade, like very first game online. Like you gotta have balls, and like most of the time it's not gonna work out. But I think you can see, and that's why I didn't necessarily think they were gonna go 0-3. But when they played their RMR and they trashed Renegades, like they literally destroyed them. And I think you don't do that randomly by just coming in and just like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen once and then it's never gonna happen again. Like they look like very solid, like elements that play decent Counter-Strike, like that can aim, that can do things, and so I think for them it's a very, very good showing. I'm very happy to see teams from all over the world being more involved into like the major and being present, and actually, I mean, they were close to taking out Complexity and Imperial. Like this is very interesting as a result, especially Imperial going through to the next stage. So no, yeah, I was. It's expected that they were 3-1, but they were way better, I think, than what we would have expected at the beginning of the tournament. In that sense.
I think they even probably should have beaten Complexity, to be fair. I think they lost like a couple of anti-ecos that basically destroyed them late game, and that's essentially what swayed it over to Complexity. So they could have been in a position where they were 2-2 fighting for a spot in the next stage. So I feel like definitely better than like people, who somebody brought up the stat that like 40% of people picked them to go 0-3, which obviously, didn't happen.
Well, the type of Counter-Strike they did play against Renegades, we only saw them play 2 games, but it was, as I mentioned before, it was like a proper style of Counter-Strike, right? They do defaults, they play together as a team, they actually move across the map cohesively, they do some good gamble stacks when they have to in certain situations. They were playing some good Counter-Strike, and I think the individuals, each of them had some moments, right? Like there was that game that Blitz had on Inferno that we were doing, and he had, I think it was versus Renegades, he had 26 kills and only 3% headshot, which was quite curious. But yeah, they all had some moments there. And I think the positive signs, if we take what Nathan's saying here about those closer results against more established teams who are used to playing this style of CS, it's good as a base, right? If they can have a bit more exposure to playing on lower ping in this environment more often than not, and maybe playing against some bigger teams so they actually get to practice, then, there's some exciting things that could potentially come out of this team, because it wasn't gimmicky. It wasn't just run around and constantly pack roll. It was pretty tidy to watch, right? It just needs more time. And I don't really, I felt like almost every player on the team had a moment or two where I was like, yeah, that was good. Like that was solid. Whereas, I put Renegades in this as expected category, and I won't keep us for long here talking about Renegades, but it was fucking rough to watch. Like it was bad. It was some of the decisions that they were making. They came out and said, "Oh yeah, we changed roles," and nobody made you change role. And I think it's early for Sicko to be an in-game leader, sure, but I didn't think ENCE was doing a bad job as an in-game leader. The only one who looked like they understood the situational awareness in when things were coming their way was Liaz, and we all understand why that would be. The others dropped off a cliff. It looked like a bunch of lost boys, man. I don't know the way that they were approaching the game. And the thing is, let's be like, oh yeah, we were in Australia and we couldn't really travel a lot for because of COVID. They still have been overseas more than anybody else in the entire country. Like for that type of Counter-Strike, where's their fundamental base of just defaults? Like the first round call that they made on Dust 2, the first gun round was go up a dark and try and execute after 2 smokes fade with no map presence. The literal only map presence. They went all 5 tunnels, no joke. Sicko went lower dark through a hinge smoke. They didn't put any pressure short. They didn't listen for what was going on outside long, and then executed into 2 players in the B bomb site. That was the first gun round on Dust 2 on their map choice. And I just went like, what am I watching? Like, what am I watching? Like, I had a really hard time with Renegades there. They need to go have a good hard look at themselves, I think, because that's just, I don't know what they thought they were getting away with, but not good enough. Okay.
Simply not good enough. I just want to add, like, I don't like the kind of direction that they're going in terms of what they're saying and what is happening with the team. Like they're doing minimal changes, playing like big events all the time, having European, not a lot, but like some European experience, and like they're going downwards. So it's not great. And yeah, just like take it on the chin. You kind of suck right now, and I don't want them to suck. I was always kind of a fan of what they were able to do with what they have, right? And they have so many good players from the region right now that they should do better. And as you said, no one made them change roles. No one made them change the IGL. Like no one made them pick an opper when they already have an opper, and like all of these things that they did. So that it's only on them. It's not really like, it's not like something happened. Oh, this guy is now sick and can't play, and now we have to get a stand-in or something. So yeah, moving on.
Yeah, so we said Eternal Fire, Renegades, IHC. Then I got to MIBR. Does anybody have anything they want to chip in with MIBR? They went on in the 2-2 game to Bad News Eagles.
Kind of okay. Okay, they played what we kind of expected. They're an okay, much better MIBR than we had the past year. There's some potential there. We'll see them in more tournaments, essentially.
The gradual level for this team. They're just, they're just constantly just slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the main point. Like, I like what I see from them. I expected them to win against Pioneers Eagle, to be honest, because I think they're solid. I think they play like a solid level of Counter-Strike of they have a lot of their things figured out and like how they want to approach the game and like their own identity, if you will, with the players that can like really pop up at some games. And you can see, I mean, they had only tight games. They lost 16-13 against Astralis, 16-14 against Outsiders. I like it. I don't know. From my point of view, I really like what they're doing. I think they're going in the right direction. And yeah, they've been together for like 6-7 months. I know, yeah. As you said, I think they're growing little by little. And I think that's going to be, again, like a good experience for them to take and to improve slowly on what they have. And I really like what they're showing. I think they're a good group. And I think they just need to move forward. They remind me a bit of what the Vegas Squadron was back in many years ago, where they were like a Russian team that nobody really knew, and they lost 2-3 at the major qualifier or something against us. And I remember it because I just went after to them after, and it was like, guys, stay together, keep working, you're gonna do great. And then the next major, they just destroyed and then went through and they became Spirit and all that kind of stuff. And I think they're getting pretty much the same idea where they have their own identity, they seem to have a good group, and move forward. Like keep working, keep going up, and I like them. I like what they're showing. I think they can do good.
I was kind of surprised by how relatively old they are for the players that they have. If you look at like the players that they have, 3 of them basically haven't really played at a level like this until this year, essentially. And they're like the youngest guy is 23 or something like that, I think, from that team. And that's kind of crazy to me. But they definitely showed some resilience because I think both against Outsiders and Astralis, they were supposed to get blown out, and then like late game comeback happens. From like I think 15-9 against Outsiders, and then on the overpass against Astralis, it was also super close. So like that's also something that speaks to their resilience, and just generally considering the inexperience that they have, that's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that like Turtle had some good games, Joda, Cello, right? Like you can definitely see where the highlights were. I think if I was going to give like any piece of advice to them, it would just be for Woody to prioritize himself a bit more, because the amount of times I see him holding a flash to set up a teammate and he has an AWP, it's like you could be doing so much more, right? You could be a lot active. You're setting your teammates up, and there's a lot of players that fall into that syndrome of obviously need to be able to do teamwork stuff in Counter-Strike, of course, but I feel like he has himself as the lowest priority, and as the AWPer for the team, you have to find impact, right? We all know that there's not too many players out there who are the AWP who aren't finding impact in their team. So that would be the only piece of advice, I suppose. And they might trend in that direction, right? The coaching stuff there now is pretty deep. They got Bit there, they had Knack there before. Well, he's still there now, isn't he? But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they continue. But the biggest issue I see for them is now that they're no longer part of Blast, they don't get that ticket to come over to Europe anymore and compete in that realm. They're going to have to try and earn it within the region. And that's going to make things a little bit more restrictive for them. So that right there is where I do see a couple of dramas for MIBR. Okay, who else did I put? Sorry.
No, yeah, just agreed.
Sure.
Yep.
I clicked away. I lost the webcam, so I wasn't sure what was going on. Who else did I put in as expected?
Eternal Fire, I guess.
Yeah,
Fire,
9Z.
9Z.
Yep, that one was as expected, I think. Complexity, or would they fall into disappointed? I wasn't sure which category to put them into. I feel like disappointing.
Yeah, depends on, I guess, who you ask, because Moses was selling us exactly this storyline. And I think after like 1 or 2 games, then I think even after the first game, Vitality Red Striker was tweeting that he sees what Moses was talking about. It really depends on what expectations you had before. I think for me, kind of as expected, more or less. Maybe slightly underwhelming in terms of the way they lost a couple of maps and just being uncompetitive, just having like just halves where they do absolutely nothing, get destroyed completely. Junior still sucking really much, and then at the same,
you don't want to bandwagon that though.
I just want to say, I want to say, Floppy is fucking insane though. He is insane. Like he's doing like the thing that you want a player to do literally every round, and they still manage to lose a lot of these rounds. So it's like he shouldn't be allowed this many multi kills that he's getting. He's getting them, and that is like, okay, this is the round now. No, it's not. We're gonna lose it. We're just gonna collectively band together the rest of the team to lose this round, and that's how it felt to me watching like the complexity Liquid game. Really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I said that after watching the first game, which was like the Inferno against Vitality, where they got blown out on T side. And what Vitality was doing, basically running around and just like pushing all the time. Something like Apex was constantly running down Banana. Somebody heard him from like either pit or from somewhere in the middle, and they still didn't turn around. They didn't even refrag him. He just got like free kills in the back constantly, like in that game. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't even know how that was possible. So that's kind of why I was saying how I understand what Moses was talking about when he said something about the MIBR series that he saw from the showdown or whatever that they lost.
Mm.
So they just looked super out of their depth on T side on Inferno, and that kind of followed in the next games as well. Like they just don't have a lot of depth in general. Not a lot of. I think somebody was talking about this, that they don't have a lot of defaults. Was it Yakindar who was talking about it?
No, Yakindar said they only have 3 executes or something, and then I think Kickard said that they have like 1 default, and they literally just really a low key, unintentionally, very unintentionally, I feel like BM'd them. I think they didn't mean it as like to be offensive and like shit talking them. They were just asked about them, and it's like, what do you think about this team? It's like, they only have 3 executes, so we always know what they're doing. Not a great way.
Yeah, I think overall they're just very imbalanced, like in what some players can give and some other players give. And so you don't really have the pieces that would work well together. So like some rounds you can have 3 kills from one player that plays well, and then if another player fucks it up, then it doesn't really work properly, right? And it works also for the game plan, for the approach that they have. I think overall, you can say there's just something missing, like in the overall approach. I feel like that there's just, again, you can have executes, you can have 1 default that is amazing, great. You need more, like you need to balance your game by having like a lot more things in your game so that you're more unpredictable, and then your defaults are going to work, your strats are going to work. And I think on many levels that's probably what missing for them. Is just like, yeah, that's how I would put it. Like for me, it's just didn't play them, didn't watch too much of their game, but like imbalanced. You can have some players that are great, but you have to have some balance where other players bring a certain level so you can secure the rounds, or you can have like several players popping off and winning that games that way, or like a proper balance in your game plan, and then you can make your things work. And it's something that happened like in teams a bit more back in the days. You can have a play style and have an identity with what you want to do, but you still need to be unpredictable, because you need to not be read with what you're going to do, even though it's your best round, even though it's your best thing. You can't run the same thing 15 rounds in a row. You need to be balanced in your game so you're not being readable by the teams you're facing. Otherwise, it becomes way too easy. And you could see it with Vitality. I think that's what they did. You counter the first thing, you counter the second thing, you counter the third thing, and that's it. You don't even have to play the game anymore. They're just going to do that, and then you just have to counter that, and that's it. It's going to be an easy game.
Yeah, I mean, Grim was just, I mean, outside of Junior, and obviously he's been kind of like the most targeted player of this team, just historically, right? But Grim was also a complete non-factor in the entire stage. Basically, he didn't have even one good map out of the 5 that they played, or whatever it was, 6 maybe. So that is just like, if you have one guy being there, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, for me, I think if I look at this, they're not trending up. That I wouldn't even say that they've plateaued. And I think one of the issues they might have here is that there's definitely some changes that need to be made. And one of the issues I have here is if they go into Dallas with this roster and then they do a little bit better in Dallas, I think it's going to be giving them false feedback, right? Because this is the most important tournament in the year. And you look at some of the teams that they were struggling against, like IHC, we were giving them props for the way they're approaching the game, but Complexity, as one of the mainstay names over there in North America, should be doing better than that, right? So I think that we should probably be expecting some changes with this team going forward. I know it's still pretty fresh since them coming together, but it doesn't feel like there's another gear to this team. And that's just going to be like, if you don't see the individual moments of the players popping off, right, you can't even put that into a system to make it work. So yeah, I think Complexity would be an interesting one to keep track on. We've got I don't want to talk about G2, Vitality, ENCE, Outsiders so much here, because we're going to talk a lot about them when we are talking about the teams in the next stage. Yeah, so we can kind of skip them for now. But then I had in my next like bucket of teams, I had exceeded expectations. And this is one where we can probably spend a little bit more time talking, because this is the more interesting of the lot. I had Spirit, forZe, the Bad News Eagles, and Imperial. right? Those were the four teams that I have exceeding expectations. And maybe we start with like the most popular at the moment of the lot here is Imperial, right? I think this is mental that you know, that they were able to get to the legend stage when the expectation was for them probably not even to qualify for the challenger stage, or for them not even to be a competitive team whatsoever, right? So they've actually been changing that dialogue, as it were. And it's crazy to me that like FNX, for Fallen, they're all older boys, right? They've won multiple majors as well, right? But they've been doing this for a while. They're all older boys. They're not like they're spring chickens by any means. It's and the fact that they're able to get towards the legend stage. Now, I know a lot of people will bring up and they'll cite the opponents that they beat and whatnot, but it's still crazy to me that this team has been able to make it to the legend stage. Now, hold up a second, actually, before we go forward. This one here, I wrote this down. I wanted to get Prof or Striker to talk about this. Hold up. I wanted to make sure that now this was for either of you, right? And I know that both of you probably feel quite passionate about this. So I'll open the question up to either of you. Whoever wants to answer, both can answer. But the misuse of the terminology of the stages. I know that's getting a few Jimmy's rustled. Do either of you want to take the floor in this regard?
Definitely a Striker.
Yeah, I guess that's up to me, because I even talked about this on Twitter yesterday or something like that, because you constantly see people saying we're legends, we made it to the legend stage. That's not how it works. You've historically been legends when you made it to the playoffs. That's where you're legends at the next major, and that's essentially how it works now, even with RMRs. You know, if you make playoffs, you make sure your region has a extra legend stage. So that's, you know, the new legend stage, or now what's called just the legend stage, is what makes legends, not where legends compete. You know, so that's kind of like the biggest pet peeve that I've had about just generally like Valve naming it this way, considering, you know, obviously it's two terms that don't necessarily mean the same thing, because obviously one is for the stages, but it doesn't correlate to the teams that are playing in it. So like it's just something that I feel like should be changed, just on the basis of everybody misusing the terms constantly.
I want to come out in my defense here. Unless you tell me I didn't, I'm pretty sure I said, like, especially when we're doing the bad
I'm sure
news
you did,
Eagles
yeah.
game, I was like, to qualify for the legend stage. I was very clear, right?
Yeah.
I'm not calling them legends. I don't throw those things around. The challenger stage. All you need to do is add stage at the end. That's all you need to do.
Someone just wrote in chat, Striker, did you just call Fallen not the legend? I think that's the new headline.
That's
You
going
want
to
to defend yourself here, Striker, or what?
Keep happening for a while. You mean regarding Imperial? I mean, we can get into
No.
that.
I look, I was trying to have a bit of fun with that one.
Look, you did want to start with Imperial. So
yeah, let's start with Imperial, right? Because like, if we're going to be honest about some of the games of Counter-Strike they played, it wasn't pretty. For example, at the Bad News Eagles game they played on Vertigo, they didn't really have a very competent approach to the T side of Vertigo whatsoever. The only reason that the game even looks remotely competitive is because they did a decent job on the CT side, right? And then that gets into the nuances of having a conversation about Bad News Eagles, right? I definitely don't want to take away any of the distraction from the fact that they still qualified for the legend stage, right? But some of the games, it wasn't necessarily the most convincing of Counter-Strike until they went up against forZe. And then, unfortunately, these the forZe kids who are looking hot to trot and looking to make a bit of a name for themselves here, shot the bed. I think. I think that to get 16-5, 16-5 after the way that was it 16-5, 16-5.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, after the way they were looking throughout the tournament, that one right there was a rough one to swallow here. But this is the thing: like, people are going to cite who Imperial beat and where they are in the rankings and whatnot. But I guess you can only face who's in front of you, and they beat the necessary teams to get to where they are, right? So you can't take that away from them, not by any stretch of the imagination.
I also
yeah,
I mean, I also just generally don't like people bringing up like generally the opponents just based on the initial seeding and whatever that they have as a current ranking and stuff like that, because it's kind of like you also prove yourself during the tournament, and you kind of have to look at like what those teams did before that they beat and stuff like that. So like, I feel like every time you beat, even if it works out that you beat like a 0-3 team, a 1-3 team, and a 2-3 team, obviously you fell somewhere in between. So you fell either just about to qualify or just about not to qualify, you know? So obviously you were good enough to be somewhere in the midway through, you know? And so like, I feel like that's a bit of a cop out to kind of constantly just bring up, oh, but they beat just easy teams. I mean, obviously those teams got to the 2-2 stage for a reason, you know. forZe, for example, obviously they got there because they actually looked solid at the beginning, you know. But I mean, overall, I do agree with what you were saying about Imperial. Like, I was looking at the Spirit match. then the B&E match, and I was like, this team just is not going to compete against anybody good. You know, if they come up against whoever out of the top 20, you know, that they're not going to beat anybody. But then they go up against Liquid and they beat them on Inferno. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
I didn't know what. I don't even know how that happened. I know Fair had an amazing series. I wanted to rewatch it. I only watched like the last, I don't know, maybe like the second half or so, and I saw Fer just getting a lot of entries and generally like working apps really well and just getting opening up space from there essentially. And that's kind of how they beat Liquid. Liquid just had a really bad time trying to defend the A side, especially from like the pit and site. But like that was the impressive part for me. The rest of the games didn't really convince me. Like I was almost about to pick them to lose to IHC, and they actually played a really close series against them. So that's kind of like where I almost got convinced by the Liquid series that they could be doing something. And then yeah, I mean at the end against forZe, I think you're right that, and I was even saying it, that forZe looked like they just capitulated. Like obviously Imperial played solid. Like you can't really take it away from them if they're gonna roll over a team that's a top 20 team, you know. But like it was pretty obvious that this wasn't the force that we saw at the beginning of the tournament.
Yep. I think just impressive overall. And like what is surprising to me is that Vinny is like their fourth best player in a way. And I think you didn't expect that, right? Because he was playing in FURIA and he was looking very good there. And he comes into his team and you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be Vinny carrying and the old guys are just going to be around and getting some frags. And in the end, like Third, like I'm quite impressed by Third, to be honest. Like he's an impactful player because he's very aggressive. And so sometimes it's going to go wrong and sometimes it's going to go good. But when it goes good, it creates like massive space and openings for your team, right? And so the direction they're going to have some anyway with Fallen, because that's what he does no matter what. Like he's going to bring game plans, he's going to work. There's going to be something, and whether it works or not, that's another question. But there's going to be something that's going to be life to his team. And yeah, like I was not expecting Fur to play that good. And overall, I think to me it was more the individual stepping up that impressed me. Like they were there, and like even though they struggled against IHC, for example, which we said like were a surprising team, they were not that bad. They fucked up a half against Bad News Eagle, the bit Liquid. Me, it was like I don't expect them to go on and win the major because they're lacking a lot of things, but I think they can still take some games in the legend stage. Yeah, I'm gonna say it right. The legend stage.
I think the yeah, I think the problem is that they're going to come up against is that I think they met teams that are both too not good but okay with playing both Overpass and Inferno. Like obviously those are the two best maps of Imperial, and they got to play them. I think 3 out of the or 4 out of the 5 matches that they played, and that's not going to happen again. Like the like teams where we'll see that, and they'll just go, okay, we're just going to ban both maps for you if obviously if they have a strong enough map pool. But like once you get to the second stage, you just do meet teams that just can't play 6 maps at a decent enough level. You know, that they can abuse your like a lack of a good enough map pool. You know, but they are a really solid team on those 2 maps for sure. Like Overpass actually, I think, was the most surprising to me because that is kind of like the map that I think you have to be the most aware of what the current meta in the world is, and you have to be very proactive, and you have to have the individuals just knowing what to do in what scenarios, you know, because it's like a very wide map. You usually have people spread around the map a lot, and you just have to have each of them knowing how to react to certain situations, you know. And so for them to play that map really well is kind of a surprise to me, especially when you put it up against like a Mirage that they've struggled on and stuff like that. You know, that was the biggest surprise to me.
Prof, you want to chip in here? Or?
I want to say, you know, Striker obviously got a lot of shit for his article about the Last Dance coming together, how it's a bad idea and all of this. Even Fallen came on the post match, said that it pissed him off. And even know that Brazilians love spite, and they love to get super hyped and motivated when someone calls them out that they're shit or whatever, even though he didn't say that. But obviously doubting them. And I think all the Brazilians should actually be thanking you because you gave Fallen extra fuel and the whole team to prove the doubters wrong and to have this amazing run into the top 16 at the major. So without you and your article, all of the Brazilians wouldn't be enjoying this as much as they are right now.
It's probably true, yeah.
Do you think you're responsible for this striker in any way, shape, or form?
Look, I mean, everybody knows about the HLTV jinx, and I feel like this definitely counts as one. So, you know, I'll just take that. Somebody was thanking me for like constantly picking against the Imperial, and I was like, yeah, sure, happy to help. That's okay.
I have the same thing with Renegades. Australians were tweeting at me saying, please stop picking Renegades
Yeah.
because they look. And I was like, man, like I'm trying to show some belief right here and give. Well, it definitely didn't work. But yeah, I think like just to put a cap on this whole Imperial story before we move forward, and we can talk more about them within the Legends stage. But I think that the fact that the project hasn't been together for very long, the fact that they made it to the Legends stage of the major, that in itself, right? You don't even have to talk about the quality of the Counter-Strike or any of those details, right? Like this is all happened in a very short period of time with some aging players and still managed in the year 2022 to be able to do this. That feat in itself is impressive. What happens after this, how the story goes, I don't even think it matters, right? This is them exceeding expectations greatly.
I just want to have an actual comment. Like, obviously, surpassed expectations a lot. For as one of the players individually, I didn't think he were close to this level. Bolts as well, Fallen as well to some degree. Like, I think they're all, as NBK said, individually much better than I thought they could be. Of course, they didn't beat the best teams in the world, and they probably won't be a top 10 team. But like, I didn't think there'd be a top like 25 team, and now they're playing like one. Like they're definitely between the top 20, 30 in the world. So I think that's okay. That's super fine. That's better than we expected, and super early. So, you know, respect for that. I was wrong. What else? Nothing else new.
Yeah, well, you need to be wrong, right? That's if we were right all the time, it wouldn't be much fun. All right, let's talk about the next team on this list here. We can pick which one of these we want to get into here: Bad News Eagles, forZe, or Spirit. Now, I guess go with forZe because we have that juxtaposition in the 2-2 matchup against Imperial. Up until that 2-2 matchup, forZe were great. Like Norvi had some massive games. Zorti bringing out the Dak on the CT side of Nuke. I really liked some of these young guns, Xtrfy as well. Like I liked watching them play. They felt like they had a couple of maps that they were very competent in. It obviously all fell apart come that last series. We had them in 3-0 in the Pick'Ems. We also had Imperial going through in the Pick'Ems, right? I'm pretty sure they were one of the teams that we had going through. But
I'm pretty sure we didn't. But
no, we did. We did at the last one. Yeah, that's the last one. I was going BNE. You guys wanted Imperial, and then Lucas went for Imperial. But both went through.
True.
There we go.
Yeah,
how many did we get right again?
It's pretty good.
6 out of 9.
6. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't do too bad, right?
And forZe was a good pick. forZe was a good pick. They got to 2-0 and went pretty good. Had a pretty good BO3.
I mean, they even had a lead on Vitality, right, on the first map, and the second map was close. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they could have.
They were actually close
pretty
to
in that series. Yeah. I think that I think that there's definitely legs to this team. It's obviously going to be curious considering the situation in that region of what's going to happen in the future here. But it's like Jerry's found a couple of other like nice little gems within this squad, and for them on LAN in this environment at a major, it was a major debut for 4 of them, right? So to see them perform like this, it's similar scenes. It's not like anybody really was too excited about this team coming into the event. Didn't expect a whole lot right here. So I think just the type of Counter-Strike they were playing and the individuals and what they were able to show, even if it is just an individual way of approach, I think it was exciting. I think but that's the thing. We always kind of knew that this region, at least in the last couple of years, has been very, very strong with the individuals. So I don't know if it is exceeded expectations or not. Does anybody have like a counter to that? Do they think they're disappointed? Do they think it was as expected? What do we think overall about forZe?
I mean, overall, I would say exceeded expectations. I think the fact that they went 2-0 was kind of like the bane of their existence almost, because obviously, you know, that it kind of like put them in a safe sense of security. And then, you know, once they got to the last series, that's how it kind of all crumbled. You know, like by that time, they were still thinking, okay, we still have this gap, you know, this cushion rather, and we're fine if we lose this series. But you know, once they got to that last series, that's where it just all fell apart, right? And I think Jerry actually addressed this in an interview after the match. He actually did a losing interview, which is fucking respect for that. Almost nobody does those.
Mm-hmm.
And he did talk about something along those lines, you know, that, you know, after they went 2-0, they were kind of like, they were thinking about, you know, we can do all these like crazy plays because we were just safe, right? Like we still have a cushion, we're fine. But, you know, once you get to the 2-2 series, that's no longer there. So I feel like the mentality kind of came back to bite them at the end.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, what do you think about forZe?
I just wanted to talk first about like the approach that we're talking about, like going 2-0 and then ending up in 2-2, and the other way around, being 0-2 and going up in 2-2. Like to me, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? If you're 0-2 and you go into 2-2, like you're on an upward trajectory. You win 2 best of 3s in a row, regardless who you play against. Like you're gonna be feeling great getting into that 2-2. Like, okay, we're back. You know, it's like that mentality. You're just fighting and you're getting into that. What if you were in a 2-0, regardless whatever team you are, if you're arriving at 2-2 from being 2-0, you just lost 2 best of 3s in a row when things started good, and so you have like not the same approach. I feel like it's like you play not to be eliminated instead of you play to qualify. That's kind of the different approach that I see. It's like that's just for the general approach. And for forZe, the thing that I know against them, they're always a team that is fucking annoying to play against. And that's to their credit, obviously. But like, you play forZe, you know it's not going to be easy. You know you're not just going to go and have fun and stomp them or anything like that. You're going to have to fight for every round. You know they're going to be aggressive, and you know they're going to make mistakes, and that you need to capitalize on those. But they're not going to give you the game for free. And especially now with like the players that they got, individually impressive, despite being young on the scene and just coming up. Yeah, I think it was great. I think that 2-2 game, they just disappeared. But aside from that, the matchup against Vitality, I expected it to be close, because I think in terms of matchup, like the kind of Russian meta where you're all over the map and individuals making plays, and forZe are the kind of team that were born in that play style, and so they know how to play, they know how to counter it. They're going to be expecting everything. It was going to be a fun matchup, which it was. But yeah, I think them going from 2-0 into 2-2 and like just losing 2-1 is just, it's just hard when you're not ready for it and you don't have a team that has all the experience to like maintain composure and be like, you know what, fuck everything that happened, move forward. We play Imperial. Let's smash them no matter what.
Yeah,
there are 4 young guys around Jerry, so
yeah, that too, right? That too. I think there's a lack of experience right there as well. And then like the closeness of those 2 series that they had against Vitality and Outsiders as well didn't help. And knowing that those were great opportunities against really good opponents, and then you go into that final game, and as you mentioned, you're playing to lose, right? That's going to be a rough way to spin things right there.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Buy and sell your skins now. Easy, fast, and safe. The best skin site. Credit card deposits and withdrawals, instant cash out methods. Get the best deals. Quick, simple, reliable. Bitskins.com.
Astralis in the disappointing category. As I mentioned just before we had the lagging issue, I was talking about worst performance for Astralis at a major ever, I do believe. I'm sure we can get some fact checking on that one going on. But yeah, that was not good, I would say. Now, there's a lot of conversation around Astralis, and obviously when the bar is set so high because of the legacy of this organization, they've even had a pretty decent amount of time together. The lucky chop change round, having Farley come in, I think we've all decided that was a bit of an upgrade. But there's some real issues here. And I want to start with this one. The issue isn't blame F, right? As much as the people on the forums love to have a bit of a meme and a joke about it being bait F and all that kind of stuff.
I want to say something.
Okay.
He has like a 1.40 rating, and that does not equate to how good he is for the team. Like,
Yes.
I'd say he is effectively like a 1.25 rating player for what he brings to the team, compared to like how you kind of judge the rating towards how much impact a player brings. I feel like when you look at a simple 1.40 or a Nico 1.40 and a Blame F 1.40, it's not the same, essentially.
Sure.
I just want to say that. I want to say that like his rating is still a bit inflated, but he is a very good player, and he's not like the reason they're losing. Although in that ancient game that they lost in the end to lose to be eliminated to Liquid, he had like 2 rounds that he kind of fucked up that in the end allowed a comeback. One of them was the Nitro clutch when he was on the flank coming from B side, coming up water, and they had them like boxed in, and he loses a duel there, maybe going a bit too fast because it was a kind of an anti-eco low buy from the other side. And then there was also the round where he just ran out of cave and died in the last round for, I don't know what was the communication there, but essentially he ran out into 5 people for no reason.
I think
so. He's not the perfect player. He also has faults. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, well, that's not where I was going with this, right? I think when you compare what he was doing on complexity was in-game leading and things were starting to go worse and worse, they would use all their utility, and he was in-game leading, obviously, to set him up, and then he wouldn't find impact. And at that point, right, like I was very critical of that type of approach. But now that he's not in-game leading, it's undeniable on the CT side that he's impactful in almost all of their rounds. He's aggressive with the rifle. He's taking fights. He's finding opening duels. On the T side, yeah, there's definitely some things that he could like tighten up. But at the same time, who else even in that team is playing? Because it was just him. There was nobody else in that entire team.
He's by far the best player on the
It's
team.
not even close. The rest of them, not even close. And I don't even know if we can just sit here and go, oh, well, Config needs to be more aggressive and find some kills. It just shows you then that they have a lack of like depth of strategy and approach to the game to be able to get into rounds with set pieces and like you look at BNE, something they're really good at is trading off of one another as they just barrage into a bomb site. Astralis, I can't tell you what they're good at the T side. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And I don't think it's like going to come down to, you can definitely pinpoint players, right? You can definitely pinpoint players. You can definitely talk about some players here or there that were missed or whatever. You can say that Config maybe needs to find some more action. But there's a lot of factors to this, right? There's a lot of factors to this that I think are lacking with this team right now. I feel like they don't have an identity of how they even really want to approach the game. And that's where I think like one of the bigger issues is right now. And they have good players for finding openings and being aggressive, like in a system where you can make the most of the glaive and the config aggression. Then I don't think you even need to be having too much of a conversation about Farley's AWP, but that still definitely needs to be a conversation point. But for Astralis, this has to be very, very disappointing, right? It's the first time Zip has not made it to top 16 of a major. Obviously, we know that the major system has changed a bit in that regard. We know it was 16 teams only once upon a time, and only in more recent history, it's been 24. But that run right there is going to sting. There's a lot to be discussed right here. Is there, Nathan, where would you start with Astralis? Do you have anywhere that you would kick off diagnosing problems?
Let's talk about the in-game leading on the T side and glaive. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah. I think one of the things is that when Astralis was extremely good, they had a way of playing that was pretty liberal with a lot of good principles and good ideas, playing off each other and like being able to play the map properly together. Like they were not, I don't think they were the masters of like mind games. They were not the masters at doing crazy stuff. They were just doing everything very, very well. And they were obviously leading the meta, and they were playing so well with all the basics and all the things they were doing, like being just a step ahead of the others, that I think that they want to still play that kind of play style, but you need to have the opening. And so that's where, for example, Magisk and Dupree, there are players, and that's one thing that Apex mentioned in his team, for example, is that they all want to do something. They all want to be active in a team and to bring, impact in the game. Like, okay, let's take this area together. Let's be aggressive. Let's push. Let's do this. Let's do that, right? And I feel like now maybe they have a bit more that will, but then who has to do it? Config, excellent player, but does a lot of things individually. So he's going to go in and get his skills, but he's not necessarily going to bring the group with him when he wants to make move. Like, it's not going to be 2-3 guys going and taking an area and stuff like that. It's just, you put Config in an area, he's going to lurk aggressively, fuck people up while the others are like faking a bop sign or something. Then you have Glaive that is IGLing, so you have to combine everything around him pretty much if you would like. And then what else do you have? BlameF is super passive on the T side. Like, he likes to take this area, like, despite being solid. He's not going to be a playmaker. He's going to capitalize on mistakes or be good in clutches, but he's not going to be opening and making space. Fardig is the upper, so like he can't also do everything on his own, like getting picks everywhere. Although you can see like G2 does that a bit more with Monity. But like, he's not the kind of player that I think Fardig is. I think he's just very stable and complete, where he's just going to get the mistakes. And then there's Zip, that is also a passive player that is not going to take a lot of area. And so to me, if you want to still play that style of Counter-Strike that is going to be very global, taking the areas, push them back, be annoying, get the trade flag in some areas. You can't have that team. I don't think it fits that team, and that a system and a play style has to fit the players. And I don't think this is the case with what the team as a whole, because I don't want to pinpoint Davis especially, but like, you're in an era of Counter-Strike where you have to be aggressive everywhere. You have to fight for everything nonstop, and you, even if you die and you get nothing and whatever it is, like, it conditions teams to like do things on the next round and move forward and do all of that. And I don't think this is the kind of approach that Astralis has, and that's where I see a lot of difference. Like, taking a bit less of those like dry chances, or like just making moves that sometimes don't make sense, like just taking duels or doing this and that play, and being like that all over the map. And I think they're kind of lacking this kind of area.
Do stupid shit, but do it with confidence. Like that's the part.
It's a big part of how Counter-Strike is being played at the moment. You can do like a lot of things solo, and like Config does it, but like if you're solo doing it in a team and you don't necessarily have the pieces around you, it's either you're gonna kill everyone in some rounds, but I mean, you can't. What I mean is that you can't be consistent with that. Not necessarily by the level of config, but because you don't have the system around that.
But it's also the level of config.
FURIA has.
It's also the level
to a degree, of course. But like FURIA, for example, they have like 35% win rate in 4v5, something like that. They have like some crazy absurd amount because they have a system that is thought of around this. And I feel like this is not how Astralis wants to approach the game. And therefore, you're not on the same page between the different players. And so to me, it creates like a big problem into consistency, what you want to do in the game, how you're going to realize it. And there's also then obviously you bring the impact of the individual players in the whole aspect in the whole system. But to me, those, like the two anyway, don't work well, because if you don't have the system that suits the player or the players want to play for, then the individuals can't really perform. And Blame has always been pretty individual in how he approaches Counter-Strike anyway, so that's why it fits him, and he's going to be okay with it, and he's going to perform no matter what. But for the whole group, I feel like the Astralis mentality and approach that you had beforehand in like the other roster with Device and Dupree and Magis that could work extremely well together, I feel there's like that link that is really missing right now in that roster, and that's really what I feel is the struggle for them, because when Blame and Config are excellent, they cover the early rounds and the late rounds. But if one of the two doesn't work well, doesn't play good, then where is the link between all players to make things work properly and to make those plays? And I feel like this is the big part that is missing in Astralis. And they try to compensate with individual plays, I feel like, but it's just not working at the moment.
I think what you're explaining here, like everyone saw essentially these rounds on the T side where Config goes for a play and it doesn't work out, and they're like in a 4v5, which looks so idealist and hopeless almost to watch them. It's just like shifting around, no one's making a move. There's like, it just seems like they don't really have an as you said, there's no way to recover that 4v5, because that move that was made wasn't made with an backup plan of what if it doesn't work, how do we capitalize on the information that we get if we don't get the kill, or the utility that's being expended in favor for that kill that we're losing, or something like that. So that is definitely a part of it. And that's why I asked about like Glaive's T side in game leading. Like, he is, a year ago, if you ask like GOAT IGL of CSGO, I think this isn't a great showing from him in this Astralis roster. And even when you look at him, I was just looking through the pictures for like the photo post that we did, like so many of these like tense Glaive photos, like for every day. I feel like the pressure is also getting to him, trying to like put this team together and make it work. And I know this was talked about like the FAR-League opping situation. I need to pick this up because on the end of the Ancient game against Liquid, we saw Glaive op 2 times. He went middle and he went to A, and they did like a 3B setup, which BlameF said on his stream was like a thing that they want to do with FAR-League on a rifle. So that's why it didn't make sense. If you say so, okay, whatever. Maybe you can also send Glaive there. What's the difference? But okay. I feel like that is also just him being like, fuck it, I need to do something, and nothing is working. And also FAR-League did shit the bed so hard on that game that I'm not gonna say he deserves to be like taken off the op, but like I don't blame someone for trying whatever it takes to win that fucking map, so we can like go on to the last map and have an actual chance So I don't really blame him at all. I feel like it's just like a very frustrating hard time for him right now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because that's not the kind of things that Astralis was doing in the past, right? Breaking the whole system just to win and capitalize on the
Yeah.
map just because nothing else is working. So it's also interesting, I think, almost on a psychology level, like what the approach is and how it is different, that they're breaking the whole system and changing things. Although maybe it's around that they said was like set and all of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's like there's a bit of a difference in that approach, and it's the same individually for Blame, for example. Like people are, like you were saying as well, like, yeah, he still did mistakes and stuff like that. When you're in like super tight games and you're having a fucking excellent tournament, you have like whatever rating, super impact, close rounds, open rounds, you do whatever, and you see your team is not following, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna finish the game myself, or I'm gonna try at least because nothing else is working. So it's like it's hard like to really mix both, and like, you know, he's been so impactful and so strong that yeah, he makes mistakes because he feels like, I guess, like from
He
the
has
games
to
that
go
were,
for
that were
it.
happening. Exactly, it's either fuck it, you know, I'm gonna win, like if nobody else does, I'm gonna close the game. And so that's like, it shows to me like it's a bit desperate in that sense, and that composure that they had before of like, no matter what, we're gonna come back, we play our system, things are gonna go right at some point. I feel like they kind of lost that, and I don't know how you gain that back. That's going to be very complicated, I think, to get back on that.
I think they're suffering a little bit from kind of the same problems that MOUZ had when Robs was kind of their only like player that you could rely on, especially on T side. And they had a pretty decent entry in BIMOS, but obviously being an entry, you're always going to be a little bit inconsistent, and you're going to have games where it works out, and you're going to have games where it doesn't. So you can't really rely on config in that way. But then you have nobody else to step up, and if the only guy who actually puts up numbers is the guy who's lurking all the time, and obviously being really passive in the lurking, and not being the guy who's trying to open up rounds and make sure that you have some space, like you just don't have a play. You can't do anything about them around the map if you don't have people opening up rounds for you, and for Blame have to close, which is what he's obviously supposed to do. That was kind of the same problem that Robs was facing when he was in MOUZ, and I feel like Astralis are falling into the same trap a little bit almost. So I was almost surprised, given how aggressive Blamef can be on the CT side, that he didn't just take it up on himself a little bit more once he realized, okay, well, this is not working. Might as well just try to do a few more aggressive plays on the T side and just try to change things up a little bit for myself to make sure that there's a little bit more space to be opened up if nobody else is capable of it, right?
But
So
then
I
he's
feel
like
that's
bucking what the leader's saying at that
look,
point, right?
of
Like I
course,
get what you're saying.
I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know what exactly like the directive is, and if he didn't want to take that upon himself necessarily, but obviously, like at some point, you're going to get frustrated that nothing's working out, and like the entire team, like you're the only one actually capable of doing your own job, right? So like that's kind of how I was looking at it. Again, like I 100% agree with you that Blame shouldn't be blamed, pun not intended, for Astralis's bad T sides, because like it's everybody else that's not delivering. I was looking at their stats. Their 5v4 on T side is 54%.
Ooh,
That's
yeah,
just
that's
fucking
rough.
atrocious. That's the
Yeah,
second
not
worst
great.
team by far, I think, as well. Like for
At the
like
tournament,
Renegades
or?
at the tournament, yeah.
Yeah.
44% from Renegades, but obviously
Mm.
Renegades really had horrible T sides. Like that was just unacceptable. And then fours were 59 to two closest teams. Like nobody was even that close to those numbers. So like even when you get the entry and you're not capable of closing the rounds, that's a side of a big problem, especially if you're a team like Astralis, which obviously has this massive reputation for playing really well in those advantageous situations. And obviously that's not working out in this new iteration.
Yeah, so we've obviously discussed at length here that it's not working, or the approach they have right now isn't ironed out, right? And arguments could be made that Farley's just come in, but I want to put this one out there, right? Even if they have to work on their approach to the game, I think that the next challenge for Glaive is probably to redefine how he wants to approach the game, right? But
Yep.
to get to the point of Astralis being, let's not even say a championship caliber squad. Let's just say like deep runs in playoffs, like making top eights, top fours, right? Making playoffs, making potential semifinals, getting back to that level. Do roster changes have to happen? Do they have to make some changes of personnel here? Because for Zip, for example,
I think Zipnix is not on the level you need right now for them to be on a top 8, top 7 team in the world in the rankings, like consistently. I know they're about that spot right now, but they're going to lose it after the major for sure. I think they're going in a good direction with like the Armar Blast. I think they also played pretty well. They're very close to qualifying, but obviously there are some gaps. I think for Farley, like he was much better at the previous 2 tournaments than he was here. So maybe a part of it is pressure. And if that pressure is not there and he can be like the second, third star of the team together with Config, then this team can do something. I feel like just being also very reliable on Config as your second best player sucks because he's going to have tournaments. I think this is the one thing that I can say. Like the only thing you're certain about with Config is that you can't be certain about him. Like he's never the guy that you can count on to deliver game in, game out every event. It's we've seen too much of it so far that we can really just say this isn't, form dipping, this isn't this team or that team. This is just how he is, how he plays, and sometimes is not going to be perfect. And then you have like these tournaments where it's blame F 1.35 rating and everyone else is in the red. And yeah, you can't win tournaments. You can't win matches like that. That doesn't make sense. So I feel like yeah, that is true. He did have a couple of those, but as I said, that's why Blame F doesn't have the impact of a Zaiwu with the same rating for me, at least.
But he's not an AWPer, so
yeah. So I think even if you upgrade, but you should probably upgrade Zip because he's just not. He's being a liability in too many of these rounds, and I know he plays a lot of like bitch rolls and not great spots, but you still need to get 0.5 more kills per those side hits than he does on average.
Do you think, here's a broad one, this is for anybody in the room, would it be better for Astralis just to get rid of the entire roster and just buy Copenhagen Flames?
Oh, okay.
No.
Yes.
Of course, Lucas.
Make it very simple.
But then
would that be a better move for them if they wanted to be competitive in the short term?
I mean, if you look, the answer is you kind of want a combination. I feel like, right? It's like if you want a really competitive team, you probably want to take a few pieces from each.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
All
Nico does make sense, and one of the riflers.
But why would you leave if you were any of the players in Flames when your team is better than Astralis?
Yeah,
more money.
You bring up a good point.
More money, a lot more money. More money.
It just anyway. I think for Astralis, even if you just take pieces, because like taking the whole roster, I think is a bit going overboard. I don't see very realistic. But I think Config is okay and can't even have bad games. But if you have a better system, it's kind of like in chess. If you make a sacrifice, you plan like 3-4 moves ahead. That this sacrifice that you make of that piece, you're gonna get your rewards like a bit later in the round because you're gonna take that area differently and you're gonna be able to play in other strength. And so that's kind of how Art and like FURIA is thinking about the game a bit more, and even like a lot of those teams. And so I think if you manage to change that and add maybe one more aggressive player, so like I guess the spot would be for Zip. Like I think they like just some aggression. So like either you get a more aggressive upper that just goes in and like MOUZ style, Kenny style, like those very aggressive that can really open up the rounds, that can play like with the up like a shotgun, and then you can like open up the map and do something, or like a more aggressive player instead of Zip. I feel like, and to me that would be like maybe the direction overall that could be interesting, but because there's still potential. I feel like the player is still high caliber, but you need to have a better system and a little bit better of something.
Maybe they need a player break so they can finally have some. Yes, Lucas.
So I know I'm this show's resident Copenhagen Flames shill.
You're Danish. We understand why.
But I actually didn't say yes to Astralis buying Flames because of Flames, but more of the situation that I see that Astralis is in.
What does that mean?
Do you speak it in code? Come on,
no,
Lucas.
no.
I mean,
So
get it straight.
When you look in game, they have this very nice view of the latest majors, right? And you see that Astralis, it's not that many majors ago that Astralis was the big dog. And I think Astralis as a brand is kind of suffering that they were so good. I know it's 3 years ago since the last major, but Astralis was the top dog with their old roster. And now these new guys, after they, split up, they have to fill out some very big shoes, both in Denmark, but also, everywhere with the Astralis brand. And you can say that, management might have done some stuff that, they signed Zip for 3-4 years?
It was 4 years, man.
And they probably did that to try to keep that dream alive of the roster who won 4 majors together. And
You mean for the fans?
it kind of
The
for the
identity,
fans.
I guess the
Yeah,
identity.
the
more, for the
identity of the squad.
stockholders.
And I think now they're kind of stuck in a position where, they want to be the big dog team, but they have to realize, sit down and realize what the hell do we want to do? Like, we want to be the best, but are we going to be the best with our old, the guys? Or are we going to go for being the best with, the squad that we can get? So if that means cutting people and putting in the grind and be like, okay, maybe we're not the best for the next major or the major after that, but then, we start building up the wins. Instead of just, out with Lucky and in with Farley and now out with Sip and in with Valde. And, if you keep rotating players, you're never going to be stable again.
Yeah, I think
you're also not going to be stable if you have like 3 wheels instead of 4.
True.
unless you're a
Totally
tricycle.
true.
Not
Unless you're a
connected to any yeah, that's true. That's why I said instead of 4, implying it's a 4-wheeled vehicle or transportation device.
You need 5 in a car because of a steering wheel, prof. All right, if we want to get technical here,
and one in the back for in case
spare.
something happens.
But I think
the
here as
box
well,
key,
the
right?
fact that you're a publicly floated company now as well, you have to keep shareholders happy, and that's another problem they're going to have as well in that regard. But this is the thing, and the Astralis journey is going to be an interesting one going forward. We spent enough time on them, boys. Let's jump into the N1 moment, and then we'll move into the next stage, and we can talk about the Bad News Eagles and Spirit, because I have enough people in fucking chat spamming. We'll get to it, guys. They're in the next stage. We're just finishing off the Challenger stage right now, motherfuckers.
These are all these noobs that didn't make it through, unlike
Yeah.
Bad News Eagles. Let's go.
Exactly. So there's plenty of time to talk about these boys. All right, the N1 moment. This is brought to you by N1 Bet. Gamble responsibly. Prof, I asked you in the chat in our Discord what this moment was going to be about, and you didn't tell me. So what is the
Kept you in the
N1
dark.
moment?
I mean, we kind of touched on it. I think what we need to always highlight is, make fun of ourselves and enjoy when some of us are wrong. So with this, we're just going to show Striker's amazing opinion piece. I think this is the
We're dialing back here. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why is the big Brazilian reunion a bad idea? And then we also see what happened yesterday. Imperial taking the final Legends spot. You know who didn't make Legends? Sinners, for example. Did you write something bad about Sinners? No, they didn't even. They didn't qualify. That's why. Oh yeah, that's true. They lost at the RMR. Did you write something bad about Sinners? Maybe did you shit on Oscar leaving, for example?
I did shit on him privately.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wouldn't make an article. Only
But
for the
maybe in the
Brazilians, of
future.
course.
Could be one coming in the future right here. How many majors has Oscar won, Prof?
I don't think a lot. I don't think 2 majors. I don't think 100% major win rate like our mate FNX right here. So
Yeah, exactly. No FNX, no major, and FNX is here, and they're still in the major. So look, it
Red
makes
Eyes in
sense.
chat
It makes
with-
sense, right? Oh, is he? Bloody hell!
Yeah.
We got some big.
Through it.
I just did a bloody hell as well. As soon as I heard red eye, it just came out of my mouth immediately. But yeah, look, this one right here for the N1 moment. I think
We also have the video. I think. Do we have
of
the
them
video?
qualifying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice.
Just a nice video.
Dude, Fur is so like scary, like how big he is. That like him like getting fired up at me, I'd be a little bit intimidated. He's solid as a bloody rock. But this right here, right? Obviously, I think this means a lot, and you could see the reception that was on Twitter about Fallen and the boys qualifying again, because there's some older dogs out there, right? There's some people who reminisce, and I think for Brazilian Counter-Strike, what Fallen and the Bolt and FNX and Fur, right? What these individuals mean to that region is they were the beacon of hope. They were the ones that kind of pulled them out of being a smaller region and made them a large one. Now, sure, we know in the last couple of years, Brazilian success has been over from FURIA, right? It's been FURIA leading the charge right here, and it's been a while to get back to this point. But I think it's just what they were able to achieve, considering the circumstances, considering they are already accomplished players, right? And now trying to have another crack at it. That right there is the crazy part for me, that they were able to do it again.
One more thing, just to mention also why it's the N1 moment is not really expected to qualify, but they qualify for the Legend stage, which also combining with Liquid means more
Yes.
spots for the Americas teams at the next major, which is rumored to be the Brazilian major. And more or less like been talked about for 3 years now. So essentially just giving more chances for Brazilian teams to actually get there into the major and potentially get into the arena as well. So there's kind of a low-key interesting storyline from this one match that happened here that could like maybe allow some team that qualifies as like 7th from the Americas to get to the arena in the end. So we'll see. Maybe it develops something, or maybe it doesn't.
Yeah,
Nice
is
one.
important. Is important. Yeah. All right. Well, the
Wait,
M1,
it's
the
6
nice
teams
one.
now then.
6
I
teams.
just realized, yeah. Right?
I don't
Well,
know. I don't know exactly.
Was
the exact
FURIA...
number.
Won't it
it's-
also depend on how they do in this next stage of competition as
Well,
well?
no, it's just not clear if they're going to get Legends or not, but they already have 6 at least Legends or Challengers.
So 3
And then
contenders
2
and 3
contenders.
challenger
3
spots.
contenders, sorry.
But one of those challenger spots could turn into a Legends spot, depending on how they do, right? Is that what we're
Yeah,
saying? Yeah,
right.
because you auto qualify back into the RMR. You don't have to qualify.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they have FURIA, Liquid, Imperial, and then those 3 contender spots that like the region just gets on, by default. So now they have 6 spots at the next major, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could have
Alright.
been less, essentially.
Could have
Yeah.
been more if MIBR had won, right? Definitely
Yeah.
could have been a cold on the one there. All right, let's get into talking about the Legend stage right now. Well, let's do it with the pick'ems up on screen, and then what we can do is we can talk about these teams at length as we add them to our pick'ems, or we can have a long discussion about this time. Last time we did a bit of a tier list of how we thought things were to go. This time I think we'll just stick to doing the pick'ems. We don't have a tier list this time, do we, Prof?
No, we don't.
We can bring it up, I guess, but
No.
We can bring up the one that we already did because we did it with all the teams anyway.
Yeah, but look, I didn't love. Here it is. Okay, Lucas. All right,
I mean,
mate.
yeah, look.
Well, it's probably it's not a horrible shout, is it? It's like considering, right? That's one of the more risky columns, the 3-0 column.
I mean,
right
I said picking a wild card for a 3-0 as a beta move, and I stick by that. I'm never gonna go that way. It's just you're playing the game as it's supposed to be played. Like you're playing to get the 5.
It's not our fault that fucking Valve made a stupid system for the.
So we want to go
That's true.
100% on nothing.
That's
Is that what we're going here? We want to
that's
get
my
9 out of 9.
that's how I went about it. So
Okay.
We're not gonna get 4.
Okay, let's go for 9 out of 9 then, shall we?
Okay, let's play hard.
All right.
Yeah, let's go hard. Okay,
let me bring this up so that I can see bloody full screen. Is the first team in the list Heroic?
Yep.
A little
Yes.
bit pixelated for me.
Yep.
All right, Nathan, let's start with Heroic here, mate. This team, where we can talk, I last week when we were talking about them had them as in like a bucket of team as a team I considered with Cloud9 to be like primed, right? They're a very good team. They're solid in their map pool. They've been slowly going up, getting a bit more landing experience, They played in a couple of arena events now. And with how whole their game is and their approach and where they are at the lifespan of their team, they're primed right now to have a very, very deep run. So where do you place this Heroic roster? What are your expectations for them in the Legends stage?
For the groups, I would actually put them on 3-0. I think they have a good shot of doing that.
Okay.
First of all, they have the first game against Liquid, and although Liquid comes from like there's always a small advantage from the teams that already played in the environment for like several days.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to play into the favor of all the people that qualified. However, what I like about Heroic is their consistency in everything they do, because of their playstyle, because the approach of the game and the quality of their players they have individually. They always have people like backing each other off. And the playstyle that they have is just so dynamic in the mid round for the most part that you will be competitive always, because you're going to make gambles, you're going to be competitive. You're always going to be an annoying team to play. And like I think they showed in a lot of group stages, it's very rare, from what I can remember, that you see Heroic just fucking shit up, like just completely crashing down and just not existing. But to me, they've been always good, and where they were struggling a bit more was like the later stages of the tournament. Sometimes, like especially on LAN, online a bit less, but like on LAN, I think they struggle a bit more, like those playoffs parts against like good teams that are consistently there and that are providing the same level. So that's why to me I like them on 3-0, because
I kind of agree
I
as well.
expect them to do that.
I kind of agree. I know they lost the best of 3 to Liquid at Pro League. That was in the playoffs though, but they also went 5-0 in the groups, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm fully fine with them going 3-0. I don't know what the calculator is like, who they face, but obviously they're kind of a high seed.
Pretty rough for them, actually. Like
yeah.
I have it in here if just like
Yeah.
most of the favorites win every game, right? Like
Don't they play FaZe like early on as well or something?
They could play Na'Vi pretty quickly, right? Like I
Yeah.
think if you adjust a couple results here, like they could play like big teams pretty much the
But
entire
like,
way
there's
through.
so many good teams. I don't think it
Yeah.
doesn't matter that much. Like,
Exactly.
really.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a lot about the playstyle that they bring that is going to make the difference in that group stage. I think they're going to be way more consistent than other teams because, for example, Navi, we famously know that their first game is always going to be a struggle when they come into a tournament. And you also have all the teams that already play there for like a week that are going to come in and be more ready than the team that are supposed to be the favorites because they come from like the top part of the RMR, fucking whatever it was. So that's why Heroic, I think they have a good game to start things off. They're very consistent in their play, and even a phase in 3-0, they look good to win the tournament. But I don't expect them to just easily cruise past the tournament and just destroy everything. I think they can easily be challenged.
The big teams always take some time to get started, and especially FaZe not playing the first stage. I think that's something that we always kind of overlook when we go into the second stage of the major. Is like, oh my God, why are these favorites losing? And it's like, yeah, they're playing against players that have been here competing at a tournament for 5 days, and shit like that happens, especially in best of ones. So I
But
think
Heroic fall into that. They haven't played here yet.
yeah, but I think Liquid isn't that good.
So let's
simply.
do this. Let's just put Heroic for now. Striker, do you think that Heroic are going to progress?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I do think that they're
So we
gonna
all
go
we all
through.
think Heroic are going to progress at least. So let's just for now, Lucas,
Right.
drag one down, just put them in the standard bucket of teams progressing. We'll leave the 3-0 right now, and we can maybe refine that one as because I'm
Yeah.
sure there might be
That's
two
fair.
teams can go 3-0. It's not that I'm disagreeing with Nathan here. I just think let's start like
Sure.
this, and then we can build into
Yeah.
it and decide as we want to do the unless
like
there's a glaringly obvious one. Let's go with Liquid here. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, so let's go with Liquid here in this situation. Now, putting him in 0-3, actually, maybe not a terrible shout. The thing is, this team warmed into the event, right? I think they were disappointing early, but they went 0-2 down. Nitro did an interview. It didn't feel like the most convincing interview, but he was like, yeah, we're going to win the best of threes. That was the sentiment that I got right there. And they did win the best of threes. They were able to reverse sweep it. We've all seen this before, right? We all know the Cloud9 script of Once Upon a Time. They came through. So that their opening games, they lost to G2, 16-6. Okay, fair enough. The Imperial loss, I think everybody lost hope after they saw them lose to Imperial, right? At that point, I think people were like, Jesus, these guys are fucking done. They had 9Z, they had Complexity, and then they played Astralis, right? Those were the three teams consecutively, and they didn't drop a map against those teams. The only game there out of the three that you would have any worry for them would have been the Astralis game. And they showed that they were definitely the better team over Astralis there. I don't think there was too many doubts about that. There was the comeback where I think everyone was starting to think that maybe the Liquid choke was happening on Vertigo, right? You could see that happening in, I think, like the Blame F final round with Farley in a 2-on-3 situation. A lot of people were critiquing the way that Blame F went for that final pick, but he got the fucking 2 kills to even get them into the site. He had so many fucking frags. I feel like at that point in the game, when he was the only one doing anything, I understand completely why he's over peaking and not playing that situation by the book because he thinks he just has to get it fucking done, right? So I'm talking about Astralis again. But Liquid here, right? I've just kind of summarized their journey to this point. Do we think that they're a type of team who, first of all, can they go 0-3? Are they likely to get on through? Where are we? Where I'll start with you, Striker, this time around. Where are you placing Liquid?
Look, I don't think they're going to, they are anywhere near the favorites to go through, but I also don't think they're going to go 0-3. I feel like they're like their main trio, as much as Elige hasn't really shown up to the level that I expected him to. I think their main trio is too strong for them not to win a match, you know, even if it's like against, like, I'm not expecting Heroic maybe, but one of these teams that we maybe aren't sure about whether they're going to go through, you know, with like outsiders or whatever, somebody like that, you know, if they meet, I feel like they could beat. Just based on because they have the star power and Nitro has actually been pretty delivering pretty well. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with Liquid. I wouldn't put them on 0-3.
Okay. Do we want to leave them in limbo right now and just just keep them up the top, and then maybe we decide later if we think that they're gonna? I think that I don't think that they're gonna qualify. They would have to show a crazy form against the absolute best teams in the world, right? And the only convincing
I
they
think,
did was
Did you see FURIA bring this up in front of Nico on the desk at one point? Nico, after they qualified, I think went on the desk and basically like whatever the conversation turned to Liquid and FURIA was asking Nico like, do you think Liquid can do it? And he's like, yeah, I believe in Nav. And FURIA's like, yeah, maybe they're gonna do the Cloud9 in Boston.
Oh dear.
And then like everybody realized that she just said that in front of Nico. She didn't. I don't think she even realized she said that in front of Nico.
You remember?
Yeah, exactly.
They
I
had
will
a
never
re-
forget.
Yeah. Unlucky. I think
That's
what, an interesting storyline about Liquid, something to keep an eye out for, is like this Shocks calling thing, which there's one interview someone wrote on an HLTV forum, but it's in French, where he said that he's calling a lot. But what I saw from the Nitro interview and from NAF, they did say that he's helping a lot with like mid rounds, some like ideas, macro like elements of the game. So I'm not gonna say that he's the main caller or that he's calling more than Nitro, but that he's definitely having an impact in the calling of the team, which is an interesting thing to think about. And like how he's been playing, not that great overall since he joined the team, but like this event has been fine. I feel like he's finding a lot of impact for the team, winning some key rounds. And if on top of that he's also calling, and maybe that goes into a direction where it's more stable and not just like we're experimenting with things and I'm kind of just adding ideas to kind of an imperfect plan, more like, okay, this is how we're playing. I'm thinking like this part of the calling, you do this. I feel like that's something that could work out and make them a better team than they are right now, because things are kind of in flux and they lose a lot of weird stupid rounds and like 5v3s. I feel like I saw them lose like way too many 5v3s in like too few games that I watched, essentially. So if they can sort out some of these things, they can be a more dangerous team, but I'm not confident in picking them to go through. Also probably not as an O3. I think for the O3 you have to think Bad News Eagles, Imperial, or maybe Spirit. Yeah, those are three that come to mind for me, at least.
But you also have to think, is Liquid going to beat those teams? That's kind of the way more that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because if you think about that pool of like O2 teams who it could be, you probably have like a handful, like 5 teams-ish that are going to be in there. And then what's going to be those matchups for Liquid is, are they favorites in those matchups? Is it 50-50? I think it's going to be pretty hard. We've seen some good things, I think, from Liquid in some games. But I think we also seen some things where things are crumbling and like disjointed, just not really well together. And I think the impact mid-round of Shocks, I think, is very true. He's a very cerebral player and very impactful in all those things. The thing is, and that it's more a question mark. I know he worked like in France, because like in Vitality, for example, because everyone has the same background. We all play the same brand of Counter-Strike, more or less. And so you react instantly to the thing because you know the general principles. And if you bring that in an American team with all those principles, then maybe you don't react as fast and like as exactly as you would if you had a 5 years experience playing in a specific style. So like the consistency has to come from like more time together so that they are really on the same page about everything. But yeah, I mean, having him as a second caller definitely brings a lot of stability to the team. But the problem is the opposition. I feel like they struggled against an Astralis that is really searching themselves and not playing very well. They lost against the Imperial. It's like, what teams in that pool are they confident to beat?
They're going to beat
in the
Imperial in a
group?
best of 3 and a Bad News Eagles. I believe that they're going to beat those two
But they might
teams.
meet them in the, I don't know, I haven't looked, but there's a chance they could meet them in the 0-1 category and play a best of 1 again, right? Like, like in a best of 3, yeah, like, because they can probably pick Vertigo. But then, yeah, and then maybe they can win back Inferno. I don't know. There's obviously not a lot of confidence around it, right? Because the engine isn't in full force.
But they're also like going upward trajectory, you know, as is like going through this stage, making the 0-2 to 3-2, like that's gonna help them feel good. And also, like, I don't think they expect themselves to make the playoffs, so they're gonna be like less pressure on them, definitely.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's leave Liquid for now. Nathan, what do you make of Bad News Eagles? Right, this team, not just within the Pick'Ems, right, but Bad News Eagles overall. This team is obviously doing the Cinderella run, not having an org. Sure. They're clearly very sharp, right? Well, what's your takeaway with the Eagles here and their performance thus far, and maybe some projections of what you think is going to come ahead?
The downside that they pretty much have is that now they're on the map and people in Europe know them. Everybody practiced against them for like a long time, you know, the players, FPL and all that kind of stuff. So like you're not surprised by what they're bringing to the table. And therefore now everybody being expecting them is going to be much harder for them. To put them in 0-3, I'm not sure. I'm just going to check quick their matchup. that is going to be
Flames.
Copenhagen Flames. So it's a very good matchup, I think, because they're going to bring a lot of fire into that game and they're going to disrupt Flames. And so I think they have a good shot to just win that one straight up, being there for a week already. So I think they have a good shot being in that 2-2 pool. To be honest, if they have matchups that go a bit their way, I think they can. Like, they're on just incredible form individually. I think that's a big part of their run, quite obviously. And tactically, they don't do crazy things. They play like good Counter-Strike. They have good ideas, good picks, just a good annoying team. Now people are expecting them. You're gonna have like 4 analysts on every single one of you game that you played because the teams now have that, and so you're gonna be figured out a bit more. And yeah, I think they're gonna be annoying. I think they're gonna be very annoying in best of ones especially. And yeah, like 1-3. I don't see them going 0-3. I would be a bit disappointed because they just have so much energy and fire right now that they play just a raw Counter-Strike, which is gonna net you wins on LAN. Like it's gonna get you wins. And so yeah, they're good. I think they're good, and they're like the peak of their level pretty much as a team. Like they're close to the highest they can be, I think, as a group. And yeah, I just expect them to cause some problems in that group. I don't expect them to pass because that's like a big task with all the teams that are here. But they're gonna be headshotting in that group.
Yeah.
Not a 0-3, you say? Yes, no.
No.
Okay.
Not a 0-3.
That's why we're putting Imperial for the 0-3, because I agree. Copenhagen Flames, if you're looking at the best of ones, that's one of the ones that one of the easiest ones that they could have gotten. I think Copenhagen Flames are a pretty good team, but still, comparing to some of the other squads that are there, I think it's a much more reasonable opponent to expect them to beat. I don't know if we want to talk about Bad News Eagles more. I think we can move on to the next one because it's almost 10 already.
Wait, will chat allow us to move on, or will they continue to? I thought we were going to put Imperial
I mean,
3-0.
So we're going to Imperial. And some would say big, not that bad of a team, not that great of a team. Like, oh, Imperial, they're looking great. They're doing better and better. But no, it's not actually. They are definitely going to lose this best of one. And why? Why is Imperial going to lose this best of one? It is because Fallen has never defeated Big. Never.
Oh,
He has
really?
never beat Big.
That's funny.
Never in his career. And that streak is going to continue because it's the 7-1 curse from the World Cup, essentially.
Wow.
Wait, he's really
That's-
never beaten Big
That's pretty
before?
elaborate.
Like, seriously?
I'm just tweeting it now.
Wow.
How many times have they played?
Only 5
Krakow
matches.
is one.
Krakow, WSG, ESL1 Cologne, ESL1 Cologne, ESL IM Cologne. And 3 best of 3s and 2 best of 1s.
Okay, that's an interesting stat right there. That's a very curious stat right there. That they've never played is insane. Well, no, he's never beaten them. That's insane.
And Gobby's back as well, you know.
And Gabi is back.
Okay, that's.
I do think Big is the kind of a team that will just figure them out. And first of all, they're not going to let them play the maps that they want.
There'll be
and
no
then that's
overpass and
already-
there'll be no Inferno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So-
Like, and I think they can't beat a good team on any of those other maps, honestly.
If it's a Dust 2 or Mirage, that's probably what it's going
Let's
to be.
also
most
be
likely.
also
I think
my
I got
opinion.
smashed on Dust too by Spirit. if I
Also,
remember.
my opinion
Yeah.
of Big is that they're going to make playoffs. I think they're going to be one of the kind of the surprises to make
Dark
playoffs.
Horse.
Not dark horse for the tournaments, but dark horse to make playoffs. For me, I think they played pretty well. I think they overperformed in the group stage, going 3-0. But I think the improvement of Crimbo is pretty good. I don't think he's gonna shit the pants because he didn't against FaZe at the RMR. So the group stage of a major isn't gonna be a big difference.
Okay, so let's right now let's try and work out who this 0-3 team is going to be, because we'll have
I mean,
a vote.
I did put Imperial in mine.
Yeah, I saw that. So, Prof, are you also voting for Imperial 0-3?
Yeah, for me, yes.
Okay, well, Nathan, I'm going to put you on the spot here, mate. Will you join the consensus, or do you have another offering here? You and I can still try and sway this, and then we have Lucas as the designer.
Yeah. No, I mean, sadly, I think Imperial hit a big thing by going through the first stage, and I think mentally they're going to be satisfied. It's hard to say, right? But like, I think subconsciously you're going to be like, okay, this is a good stage like a good thing that we passed already. And so although they want to be like in the big stage and stuff, they know being in the playoff is going to be very, very hard. So like now they're going to go all out and not without, I think, the same belief that they can really make it 100%. I don't know. It's a bit hard to say. And obviously with all the experienced players, it's hard to say that against them. But I don't know. I feel also just in the game, there's going to be a little bit of something lacking. I don't know who they're playing. I mean, Bigs, never mind. We just talked about it. Yeah, it's already like a tough matchup to start with. And yeah, it's hard, but I think just Imperial is just lacking something. And like I don't see any other obvious candidates. Even, I mean, Spirit might because of the lack of consistency in some games and depending on the matchup as well. So to me, it's between maybe Spirit and Imperial. But I still see, if they were to play each other at 0-2, I would still take Spirit to win it. So
Okay.
that's kind of what I
Yeah.
think, and what I think Imperial maybe does.
I
that.
feel like
I think it would take another like 4 situations for Spirit to lose to Imperial, like that they just crumble. You know, all
They
of
do
a
have some
sudden.
youngsters, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
there's a
it
possibility
could
of that
happen.
happening.
It could
but
happen.
The three of you have voted in that direction, right? So that's the majority. I don't even need to place a vote. I would like to. Hola, Brazil. I did not have a vote in this. So I'd just like to let you all know that it's the other three completely responsible for this situation. I don't even need to give my vote. So the majority rules.
I will
It's a
give
democracy around here.
I'll
Look,
give
people
you
will just
Google
screenshot
Translate.
and all four faces are still going to be on the screenshot.
Clip
and, like,
it.
when they don't go 0-3, like they're
Oh, yeah.
obviously going to
Clip
yeah,
it,
man.
translate it, ship it, do it all.
This is in Portuguese. I didn't vote. If you can, not Brazilian Portuguese, just Portuguese. It was so that's the best I can do right now.
Okay.
It's on TeamSpeak. Do you want
And if anything, we set all of that up 0-3 just so that they get more fuel and they get more motivated so they can win and crush and go into playoffs. That's why we did it. So we're with you guys. Get them.
See, Nathan's getting it now. It's the reverse psychology here. How do I say this? Hold up. Now vote. Now vote. All right. Well, that's close enough. They'll be able to translate it. I even put it in Google Translate to make sure I wasn't getting wrecked here by Prof. All right.
hilarious.
Because I could only imagine what you would have put there to say. All right. Fine. Let's continue to move forward here.
That would be really fucking dangerous in Portuguese, by the way.
Let's jump over towards. I guess we were just talking about Big, right? So let's jump into Big. Prof, you were just making a story for why you think the Big are going to make it through. Do you want to try and tell everybody?
They're also kind of the team that's coming out of the shadows, not really that well known with this change of Crimpo. Didn't play that much, so there's a couple of online games that they played for the Dallas qualifiers, but not the same level. You're also not throwing everything in those games for sure. Like if you have some stuff that you want to keep for the major, keeping that for the major. You didn't have to play the first stage. They had enough time to prepare. They're coming together. Of course, there's always the Searson on land factor, but he's getting better. He also had his surgery and shit like that he needed to recover from, and didn't really go as well as it was expected. I know even in Katowice, it was really difficult for him to still be, sitting and playing and all of these things. So coming into this tournament, I feel like all of these things are now settled. Now Gabi is also there to help. Like they just like kicked NKJ, poor guy. It's just like the device and what's his name? Knock situation. When Gabi is gonna come in to coach, all you can see is like, okay, see you guys later. It's fair enough. It's Gabi, right? So and yeah, that's it. I think they have a good team overall. When with all of these changes that they made, it's not like the Big that was before with a lot of weak links and has to rely on a super deep strat book. Of course, they're not the super meta defining giga aggressive team, but I think they're going there and they're playing more freely, and they have like different players that can just pop off and clutch them to 2v2, and they can get into those 2v2s without overcomplicating things. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have a counter to what Prof's saying? Does anybody think that Big won't make the top 3? Sorry, make the top 8.
Top 8.
Look, they like on paper they probably shouldn't, but I do like them for like a dark horse pick, because like if we're gonna go all safe, like we know that's not gonna happen, so we might as well just pick one that's kind of like on the edge that we feel like could do it. I do like the argument that I think Gabi, like obviously it's a massive narrative and people kind of overplay it to a degree, obviously because it's a big name and stuff like that. But he does have he does have impact on a team. Like it's clear that he's already come in and tried to impose some of the some of the thoughts he has, even on the individuals. Like he was talking about how he was trying to help Grimbo and stuff like that. Like I think he is just the kind of a guy who's just going to come into the major and just like make sure the team is prepped 100%.
We're getting a lot of viewers right now. Golas is yeah. So this is good. Like we've done it all for the viewers. Do well,
okay, we can push it now. It's okay. It worked. It worked. We got the viewers. Switch it quick. Put the other team. Whatever.
the plans come all together. Look,
good job, guys. Well done.
it's all worked out. Here. It's all about the interaction.
FURIA, Theo, Imperial go through. Let's go.
Actually, well, look, I think there's a real conversation though to be had. We can whack big in. We can whack big in just quickly. Look, whack them in, put them in. But I think there's a real conversation about FURIA potentially going 3-0, right? Like, because what you were saying before, Nathan, about the way that Heroic play, right? And then being, like the real quick decision making. I feel like the same. Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lucas. The thing with FURIA going 3-0 in this situation is that they're similar, right? I think that they're like a team very momentum driven. Like Art can get away with a lot of his maneuvers. If some of the gimmicks can't be countered early, then I think that there's like a real conversation to be had that FURIA could be on that same hot streak as like a Heroic here. But I don't know, maybe I'm romanticizing FURIA at the moment. I think they're really good though. I really like the Quesarado Yuri duo. I think that the biggest X factors for me are going to be Drop and Safe. Right, I think the Drop is doing some convincing. Like in the more recent games I've seen him play, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's coming up a bit more clutch. He's starting to find his place in the team. Safe gets to have a couple of moments too. So I think that there's definitely a conversation to be had about FURIA going 3-0. But I don't know if we want to lock the 3-0 team in right now. But I believe that FURIA will make the top 8 and make the playoffs again. I just think
definitely playoffs team. I don't think there's an argument against it, but if someone has it, go ahead.
No,
Anybody think they won't make it?
I think they can go semi-final. I think they can really go on a hot streak and do something good because they are a team that love chaos, and Counter-Strike is in a very chaotic place right now in terms of game style and what teams do. And I don't know, I think if they start popping off and, fitting themselves, they're going to be a really, really hot team to beat. And so I don't know if I would put them 3-0 in group stage because I expect them to have to tweak a little bit how they play during that group and maybe not go move sailing into playoffs. But I see them going far this tournament. I think they're going to go very well. I think they have a lot of confidence in the way they've been playing recently to just bring it to another level in this tournament. And it's very open right now. The scene with who can win, and
there's a lot of Brazilians. There's a lot of Brazilians in chat. This is your moment to maybe say where you can say FURIA. You can say that FURIA could win the major. You could say that.
I mean, I want a final. I want a final with FURIA in it because that shit's gonna be entertaining as fuck. There's gonna be a lot of things happening. I would love that, and I think Brazilian people love Imperial more than everything.
That's true. That's true.
So FURIA is just they exist. They're Brazilians. If they win, that's fair enough. But yeah, I see them going far. I think they're an excellent team, and yeah, I think they're gonna make it to playoffs quite clearly. I have a tough time not seeing them go through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in my loose tier maker, I made them top 4, so I can't really back down now. So.
But we're gonna have a hard time here, right? Because if we put FURIA in, FURIA in, now we have to fit in. I think Na'Vi's is Na'Vi a no-brainer? To me, Na'Vi and FaZe are no-brainers. We haven't even put them in yet. Yeah. I don't know how. Na'Vi and FaZe for most people are the 2 first cabs off the rank. FaZe are the favorites. Na'Vi are 2 IC, right? Lucas, whack FaZe and Na'Vi in, because now we're going to see just how few spots we have to deal with and how many good teams we still have to fit. See, yeah, but exactly, right? We have to fit in G2. Vitality is a conversation. ENCE is a conversation. Cloud9's a conversation. What are we doing here, right? How are we going to fit all these teams in? So out of this, let's kind of refine this down a little bit. G2 and Vitality look very good throughout the challenger stage, right? ENCE, they had a bit of a wobble, but they've been one of the most consistent teams in the year, at least as far as up and up with their results and continuing to perform. And then you have Cloud9, who's just that stable base, right? They have a new org now. They've kind of got themselves out of at least the mess of having the eyes on them for the negative reasons. So right here, I guess we are going to have to build a bit of an argument of these last 2 spots. So Nathan, out of those teams right there, you pick one. Who do you think, right? And we'll have a conversation about this. Which team do you think is the next to whack on into one of these slots?
Um,
Can I go with an
I mean, it's
argument
between
against?
G2 Vitality, but yeah, like ends it's stuff like Spirit Outsider, like yeah, all like the right side teams like Spirit Outsider, Imperial, BNE, and Liquid have tough time seeing them in playoffs. I mean, Cloud9 as well. They have so much. Let's just see what their first game is going to be. Outsiders, okay, it's a good start for them.
The comfortable matchup, something that they're used to.
Yeah. No, I think I'll go with Cloud9 probably. They're very consistent in what they bring. I think they're gonna be good in groups, like in the whole group stage phase. Again, they might lack what's gonna be like in the higher stage, like in the playoffs, to like really get like over that edge and like having that extra thing that is gonna make them win. But I think they're gonna be very consistent, kind of in the same idea as Heroic. That I think they're gonna make it. I would even maybe put them in the 3-0. They're kind of like more like the gambly stuff that you can put them in 3-0 because they're a consistent team again that can also bring, something stable to past groups. And then the playoffs is gonna be like a different ball game.
Okay.
Wait, what are we talking about now?
Cloud9.
Oh,
Cloud9.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, whack them in, put them in. Does anybody think that
I
Cloud9
had-
won't make it? What was your rebuttal going to be here, Striker?
Yeah, I mean, I had an argument against one of those favorites that we were
Who?
talking about, which is ENCE. I feel like, and this is kind of like the
Here we
feeling that I've been
go.
getting
This is interesting.
in
Gut
the past.
feeling.
In the past, exactly, kind of like a gut feeling type thing that I've been getting in the past like 10 minutes now that we started talking about it. I feel like they peaked at the wrong time, in the sense that everybody has them on the radar now. Like everybody says how good ENCE is, and so that
True.
means everybody's going to prepare for them extra because they know they've been peaking, they've been a really good team, but they don't have as much of a base as a team like a FaZe, as a team like a Navi. I don't put them at the same pedestal to go through the groups swimmingly. And obviously they're facing FaZe in the first match. They could be playing like a heroic in the second one. Well, not heroic because they're probably going to beat a Liquid, but could be a rough match in the second one. They could go down 0-2, and at that point, you have to win 3 series in a row against teams that are obviously at a high level. So like that's kind of like the situation where I could see ENCE like ending up in, and so I'm almost on the verge of like putting them outside of the playoffs just for that reason. Essentially, like
It's a
they've
good
been
argument.
too good recently for everybody not to be aware of them.
It's very good
And
rationale.
they have had some weaknesses. Hades had a pretty rough first stage, especially like that the what was the series?
G2 one.
I think
Yeah,
so.
G2
Yeah, I
one.
think
They
that was the
also
G2 one.
that was super funny because Snappy tweeted that they were playing 4v5.
Yeah.
Because they lost.
Yeah,
They lost
So many openings,
56,
right?
56 opening duels and won
Yeah.
like 26 or something like that. So people obviously took that towards Hades, who I like as a player, and I also feel like he is one of the players that really needs to grow in terms of the pressure and dealing with it in the big games. And that's an annoying part about ENCE because I really like the team and how they're playing and all the players and the whole storyline of these kind of, I don't want to say leftovers, but like overlooked and not really fully developed players being picked up and put together in this lineup led by Snappy, who was also kind of a leftover from the Danish scene, essentially. I really like the storyline. I really like how they play. They're fun to watch. They're not like a super slow team. Shit happens, and all the players have something to offer. But I have this gut feeling that if you look at the teams that we have here, like they're the one that I'm kind of scared of if shit's just gonna go wrong for them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I also
I'm
think
not
that
saying we don't have to pick him, but maybe let's just have that in mind.
No, but both of you are in the same place with that, right? And you're actually
Yeah.
you're putting it in sound logic, right? And you can easily flip this because ENCE have done a lot of impressing, right? They've definitely done a lot of impressing this year. They made it to the final against FaZe over there at Pro League, and they're going from strength to strength. When Hades looks good, Spink's dropping absolute bombs, right? Snappy's still having massive performance games. D-Hub being impactful, Madden being an addition. He's obviously an upgrade. Like, there's a lot of positives, lots of praise around Saw. But we can flip this, right? Like even if we don't pick them to go on through, and then they do, this is the next part in this journey for this team becoming mega legit, right? Because a lot of the other names, we already have players who have been deep in majors, Vitality, Na'Vi, FaZe, right? Heroic and Cloud9 last time round were deep. FURIA did the same thing. G2 were in the grand final of the previous, right? Big is probably one of those exceptions to that rule that you could make a good argument. Big versus ENCE. Do we really think that like Big are going to outplay ENCE? That's where you could kind of start having that conversation based on similar categories right there. But you guys are creating a narrative which, if they do go against what you're saying, it's just that next step in the progression of this team becoming one of the elite, right? And this is the highest they've been ranked in the world. This is the most important tournament. So you built a conversation here that we can go either way, right? We can definitely go either way in that level right there. So let's leave ENCE off for now. Maybe
even if you talk about Spink specifically, like obviously there's been a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes on him in the past couple of months, and like as a result, ENCE essentially, or the other way around, I guess you can say. So like people were also prepped for him specifically, and he's been obviously key to their entire runs. Like he's had some massive games, and so like that's still same argument. You know, people will just be much more aware of what his tendencies, and you know that like that this is where he needs to hit that next level where he's going to be consistently that kind of a guy. You know, and that we've seen it like often enough that I feel like he's definitely going to have big games, but maybe, you know, in those key matchups against some big teams that will just put a little bit more like analyst work into him and try to make sure that he doesn't have the amount of space that he needs, you know, like that's where I feel like they could crumble, you know, so that's a bit of a worry for me.
Okay, let's leave them to one side right now. What about this one here? And anyone can pick this one up, right? Everybody seems to be sleeping on NIP. I even saw like Brokey put NIP like 0-3. They're the team that we talk about having a really high floor, right? So what's the go with NIP? Why is everybody sleeping on NIP right now?
Because there's too many good other teams, essentially. That's
a good
basically
answer.
the problem.
But the NIP at every turn have proven the naysayers wrong. And it's not like there's a lot of naysayers. It's just like they're not expected to do well, and then they do well, right? So what's
I
the
think when we actually look at the results with Broland, they haven't been that great. Like they beat.
Hasn't he played one event?
They played the qualifier Armor, and they played the Blast Showdown. And I think at the Armor they beat ENCE. This is an anti-ENCE thing as well. Like why does ENCE lose that game? They shouldn't. They should just win it easy. And then this is why I'm gonna have a future in coaching. Please, guys, just win the game.
Okay.
They win the game. We win the next game and win the tournament. But then they played the showdown 2-1 against Bad News Eagles, which is literally down to the wire game that they managed to win NIP, and then they got 2-0 by Astralis. Kind of convincingly as well, 16-1 on Mirage. So I don't think this team has meshed together yet, and also they don't have an AWPer, so that's also kind of cool.
Okay.
I don't think like if this was the challenger stage, then yes, of course they would go through. But I think with these teams, like who can I take out for them? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how many of these teams would they beat? Essentially, like maybe one of them, but probably not two.
Okay. I see where we're going with this.
There might be in a 2-2, and it would depend on a lot of the matchups, because I think there is a world where.
What's up? I think that's on you, John.
Maybe muted or something. Unplugged.
I don't know. He's fine.
Not working.
What were you saying, NBK?
You guys keep going.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, for NIP, I can like it would depend a lot on the matchups, because I can see a world where it's like NIP ends in a 2-2 situation, and then one of the two makes it just because of the matchups that is going to be made that way. So I think that's one of their big part where they can have their salvation, because I don't see them like I don't see them changing their playstyle and being necessarily different, right? Like they have their playstyle with Hampus and the way they play, and I don't see them bringing another gear into the tournament to something that's, you know, they will surprise people, and then boom, they're going to be in a through, pretty much like a Big can do, where we can know that tactically they can bring something that is going to be a bit special and different that can put them through, and then they're going to be figured out for the playoffs. So that's why it's hard. Like I can see them passing with the right matchups, but it's a bit tougher. But yeah, like I've been thinking actually from the start, from where we started with like all the teams, and like I've been changing my mind about a few things on how things are. And for the Navi pick, for example, I'm not saying they're not going to make it, but I'm saying if there's one favorite that won't make it, it's probably them. That's how I would feel, because first of all, we're not still sure about their situation as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is still that plays into it. They have a tough first matchup against G2 that they can easily lose in the best of one like that. And then it can be like some weird fucking matchups in like the 1-1 pool or anything like this, or the 1-0-1. And I think there can be some weird stuff, especially if they start slowing the tournament. So they can definitely get into it and get into. I mean, they're obviously one of the favorites to go into the playoffs, but I think if there's a favorite that doesn't make it, Navi is probably the one in a position to be there. And that would leave room for G2 that I think are going to make it. They're consistent. Vitality as well. They're finding the consistency and growing. So I mean, yeah, it's just like an off thing that I
G2
throw if we're going for.
sorry, throwing
I
G2
don't
for
know.
another 3-0 and Vitality in there for the last pick. Now let's just put that in if we can. Mr. Producer, Lucas, wake up.
The other way.
G2 3-0.
G2 3-0 and Vitality is the final, and we're leaving.
I would still.
I
would
NBK
change Heroic G2 then, because I think Heroic has more chances to go 3-0 than G2 if you're going for the 9-9 instead of the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think it would make more sense to me.
Yeah, G2 is a little bit inconsistent for me to
and
bank
also
on
the
them for
not.
3-0.
Yeah, okay.
Like
yeah,
I did it in my first Pick'Ems, but because I fucked up the matchup predictor, that I just left it in because I just doubled down. But I feel like they're not going to go 3-0 as well.
Okay.
What do you say, Chad? Do you want to swap Heroic and G2?
We can too. I think that it's probably, considering the opening match, it's more likely that Heroic would, because the opening match is like a coin toss match, right? But it's for G2 in their opening game, right? Whereas this one right here for Heroic, it should be less of that fashion. So I can see that more so. I'm curious about the Vitality game. I know Vitality are going to have a lot of hard matches, right? And their opening matchup is going to be against NIP, right? But did anybody feel that they got convinced by the type of Counter-Strike that was being played? Because I know when we discussed it last time, Masuda was a question mark, and he played fantastically in terms of finding them openings and multi-kills and on Deagle rounds and everything.
Probably overperformed. I look at that, and I think that's an overperformance from Masuda.
Okay.
I mean, but he was too consistent for it to be kind of like an overperformance. You know, if he had one really good series, like he was good in all of them, though. As like from what I remember, I didn't recheck the stats, but like from my notes, like I was actually trying to focus on him and make sure that like I'm kind of have a gauge on how he's been doing. But like every time I was like, okay, this is actually kind of a Masuda diff, because like every time they got close, he kind of got like one round where like it was a key round that he turned around, you know, that kind of got them the momentum for them to close the game, and just generally put in a lot more numbers than he would have usually. So I feel like it's almost like he's peaking, maybe not peaking, but finding form at the right time, you know. That this is what could make the difference for Vitality, essentially. Like they were already a decent team, but they just needed Masuda to be at a good enough level for them to be consistent, you know, and he's been doing that so far.
They also played Complexity, Astralis, and forZe.
Yeah, not the best set of teams for sure. Yeah.
So like for me, it's I'm not 100% sold on Vitality making playoffs. Like for me, they're kind of a borderline team together with ENCE. Not together with ENCE. Like ENCE are either going to be super good and make the playoffs, but also they could shit the bed. But I'm not sold on Vitality. And there's the Navi case. I think Cloud9, FaZe, FURIA, G2 are like very, very safe. The big one is obviously kind of a, you know.
Yeah, I think Vitality, like their map pool is also an issue. I don't think they have really found their footing where they know what their strong maps are and they can really pick it and like bash opponents on it. I think it's like still quite open for discussion what they're good at and what they're not good at. And so I think it makes it a bit hard for them. But like, who do you replace them to go through to playoffs? Like, do you put ENCE instead? NIP?
I'm just waiting for Lucas to say Copenhagen in Flames.
No one. We didn't talk about Copenhagen Flames or outsiders.
I just looked at Copenhagen Flames, right? Just quickly had a look at their head-to-head against Bad News Eagles, and they've only played Bad News Eagles when they were known as Blink, and all these games were in 2021. But there's not a single series. They played each other 3 times where Copenhagen Flames won over the Bad News Eagles guys.
Interesting.
Same rosters.
Like, I think Blink was even playing with some stand-ins in the last game in the ESCA thing.
Were they? Okay, well, I think I was looking at the best of 3s. I don't think I looked at the ESCA matchup. Hold on, let me have a look here.
I mean, I'm definitely not 100% convinced by Copenhagen Flames. They obviously had a good run at the RMR, but it's not like they played.
Run, didn't they?
What's sorry?
They had a great run. Like the
Yeah,
fact
but
they
it's
went
not like
3-0.
they also played a great set of teams. You know, in the 2-0 they got who the fuck was it? I remember it was 4 teams, or it was 3 teams. 2 of them were really good, and the other one, fuck, whatever. I
Ah,
have to check. Who did they play the last in the 2-0 on at the RMR?
I'm bringing it up now. I'm
Yeah,
getting
that's
there.
what I'm trying to figure it out.
Clicking. We're getting there. The 2-0 in the RMR, coming in Flames.
NIP. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. But that was a big
They
game
played
for them to
Sprout
win.
Sinners NIP. You know, obviously, like NIP is it's not it's no slouch to beat NIP. You know, but it is an NIP that played with Brolin for the first time. You know, it's not like we knew what they were going into that game. You know, so it's kind of like it was definitely the biggest question mark out of all of those 2-0 teams. So that's what I'm saying about the matchups that they've been facing so far. You know, so like not 100% convinced of Copenhagen Flames at the moment.
Okay, so this is the same situation. Like we're talking about, still needs to be more proving, right? Because they kind of blipped off the radar after the last major. Yeah, Nathan.
Oh yeah, I was agreeing again.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
Yep.
I want to allow you to speak. You're the guest, right? So every time I'm like, all right, let's get him to chip on in. But okay, I see what you're saying there. Look, I'm happy where we
I'm
have
pretty
it right
happy
now.
with this.
I'd leave it the way it is, but I just want to make sure we give all the teams the conversation points that we should here.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
just because this is our pick'ems doesn't mean that, you know, we're like, for example, like Spirit, we didn't talk about them, but Dexter obviously played fantastically well. He was a beast, right? He was a beast. He was everywhere with the AWP. I don't know if he was being moved around by Chopper or he was deciding himself, but he was fucking fantastic. Patsy
Patsy
was
as well?
mega
I
X
think
factor.
all of it. I think all of Spirit. I love what they're doing. Like the whole roster, what they put together, and all of that. Like Chopper leading all of that. Magic's bring a bit of experience with like being there for like a long time as well, like helping Chopper, and then
He's
Dexter
18, by the way.
is a beast. Yeah, but like still, he like you can see he has some presence. Like the guy is like composed, and I think you can see that. And Siren and Patsy, you basically require them to hold their positions more than anything, and then you just have to shoot people. I don't know. I just like the team composition. I think it showed. I think they've been solid overall. They have that youth element where they just don't really care. They just play and they destroy people. So I don't know. I really like what they're doing. That's why I don't really see them in 0-3. Like
They
I
could
would see
definitely get a
them
victory
beating
somewhere.
Imperial. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what
they're
the
playing
first matchup
FURIA
is.
first, right? FURIA.
Okay, that's gonna
Yeah,
be a
could be
tough one.
interesting.
That's gonna be a
But I mean, it's
crazy
gonna be a
game
fun
though.
matchup. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun
Crazy
matchup.
game.
Yeah, so like
And like how many
that's gonna
times
be
are
great.
Patsy and Art gonna beat each other? Or Dexter and Art, you know, it's probably gonna be like a lot of match. Patsy is actually the guy that's kind of like impressed me the most on Spirit, because he's the guy we haven't really seen do this up until now so far, and suddenly he just turns up like from the G2 game that he just like started running around with the op on the CT side, not even being the primary opper, you know, being the secondary opper, running around on CT side, literally taking every duel that he could find. Like he could not stop basically with an op in his hand, you know, and he was constantly winning those duels and like getting them a lot of openings. He died first a lot as well, but he's just, you know, he's that type of a player. He just constantly wants to look for duels, you know. And he's been winning them more than not. So that, I mean, fair play to him, I suppose. It's just the entire trio. Like the star trio is really fun to watch. You know, the Dexter being kind of like the aggressive opper, Patsy being the usually aggressive rifler, but he also double ops or secondary ops, and then Magic is more like the calm guy who's just like finishing off situations and stuff like that. It's just a really strong trio if they're on point, and they're super fun to watch. And like obviously Chopper is the guy who's kind of like rounding it all out. I haven't really paid too much attention to Siren. I feel like he's kind of like the supportive guy. So he doesn't really get too much eyeballs on him.
He was doing his job though.
Yeah, and
He's
statistically he's been
aimed
okay.
there
He's
as
been
well.
fine. Like I can't really blame him for anything, you know. So that's kind of why I'm saying I haven't really paid too much attention to him, because there's just the eyes are always on those three, you know.
I think that they're going to be exciting to watch, and the way that they played was fun. It was fun to watch, right?
Yeah,
There's obviously upset potential here, but you can say the same for like an Outsiders. They're obviously not done yet, even though we know there's likely changes for them after the major. They're still showing decent Counter Strike, right? They're doing the classic Outsiders thing, having leads and then going back and winning the game 16-14. It's just what you come to expect with this team. They're the most grindy, hard to put away team that we have, and I guess as every game goes past and as it gets closer to them potentially being the last game they play together, maybe that works in a positive for them. We've seen how that worked for NIP when we referenced that fucking Dubai event, which feels like a million years ago now. But it's similar scenes. We don't often find teams in this type of position before the event even starts, right? Like, and I think that's where these guys were at. We knew this was going to be the case before we even got into it. People in chat are pointing out the Spirit will be playing without their coach, which is true. Yeah, that one there is obviously a bit more of a rough one for them to be able to deal with, but they handled it. They definitely did handle it. I thought Chopper's calling through the challenger stage was better than during the RMRs for sure. Like, I think Chopper did less Randy stuff, and maybe when he did the Randy stuff, it worked, so it wasn't so noticeable
Critical about it.
yeah,
Well.
it was a bit harder to poke holes in it when it's working, right?
I mean, yeah, Dexter's been amazing in opening kills as
He's been
well. So
great.
if you have that guy, and if you have Patsy, who's just constantly in opening duels and a lot of the time winning them, you're just going to get a lot more space, and those kind of plays are going to work out more. So I feel like that's a big reason why they haven't maybe looked as random.
I'm trying to think. Is there anybody here that we haven't touched upon?
I mean, there's one. Yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to talk
about.
Go for it.
I mean, they're just outsiders we didn't talk about, I think.
Well, how do you feel about them,
Honestly.
Nathan? Do you think they're a team who have anything, or do you think they're just going to get wrecked?
Like, I would argue it's possible that they go 0-3.
Okay.
I would argue that, because I think what they showed in Challenger, whatever it's called.
Yep.
Like, they faced they struggled against MIBR, that is a
MIBR,
decent
yep.
team for sure. They got trashed by ENCE, which is a very solid team at the moment, admittedly, but still, like, they didn't do anything. And then they beat Complexity and forZe. forZe is like a local matchup that they know each other very well, so like it's always a bit more random. But of course they're gonna play to do like great things, but I don't know, I have a tough time seeing them, like, they kind of been figured out and they won't really work on a million things, because it's extremely likely that they're gonna change after that. And therefore you come in with the same playstyle and idea, and of course they're gonna be hard to beat, of course they're gonna be annoying. And I feel like all the other teams are gonna like step up just a little bit, get better. Even like Imperial Outsiders, like, it's gonna be. I know, like, people are probably gonna say like, yeah, Outsiders are huge favorite and all of that, but in all of the context currently, I think it could be an interesting matchup in terms of how things will face. Like, Outsider against BNA, Spirit, Liquid. I don't see them as
They're not
favorites
clear.
into all of
Yeah,
those.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
That's
to
fair.
me, that's kind of what I see, and so they can easily go 0-3. If you start like going 0-2, and you don't, I don't know, you play, who did they play first? They play Cloud9. You get trashed by Cloud9. The guys that are like Russians as well. They manage to get an American org and all of that. For them, like, life is great. And then they get a second matchup. They're 0-2. That is going to be hard. They're 0-2. You're not
Could
in a
actually
fun
be Spirit.
position.
Actually be Spirit.
Yeah, but like, you're not in a fun position, right? Like, you don't want to be in a position when you know your team is most likely going to be dead. It's like, yeah, we want to have a good last run, but fuck, it's hard to get truly motivated for that to make it. So like, to me, they're part of those teams that can go 0-3 on the same level as Imperial, because they're not really favorites. So you just have to go to have like some maps going wrong, and that's it. You're out. You don't really rely on too much, except then
I could see them lose to pretty much anybody outside of Imperial, to be honest.
Yeah, but I guess as far as this goes, we don't have them going through. So
yeah.
I guess that doesn't change that overall pick 'em, and we know that it's a dead team, but we know that there's potential for them to have some tight games, and it's not as clear cut as them being middle of the pack and a guaranteed 2-2, right? Like, I think for them they're a bit more floaty. Who was the name striker that you wanted to dive into?
G2, and specifically m0NESY. I know I've been talking about him a lot.
Fuck.
But like, it's been interesting to me that the way that they've been using m0NESY, especially this event, because he's been way more active in openings. If you look at the stats, he's been by far the most used opper for openings, and on the T side is like 30 something %, which is kind of crazy considering who else G2 has on this team, and how basically all of them like to do some sort of, opening work on T side. If you look at Nico, he's obviously more of the lurker and hunter as well, but he's more like the passive one who's working mid round, rather than like opening rounds. Then you have Alexi and Jax, who obviously a lot of the time are the first guys in, And so it's interesting to me that m0NESY is the guy by far the most active on T side and in terms of openings, and he dies a lot for an upper. Like, he dies at an insane amount. I think it's like 0.15 on T side. or something like that, which is for an opera is pretty much unheard of. If you look at anybody else, almost like unless you talk about somebody like Art who used to do it just like the craziest way possible, you know. So that's kind of like what I'm concerned about with G2 a little bit. Like I know I've been talking about it, and specifically Modesty a lot, and him being inconsistent, but I think this really contributes to the team being a lot like really unpredictable in terms of like what you can expect from him and how those rounds are going to develop. Like if your opera is kind of like 50-50 on if he's going to kill the first guy or die to the first guy, like it's going to make your T side really volatile, and that's a little bit something that I'm worried about when it comes to G2.
Are they
But isn't
safe?
that what you want? Because the the T sides are much harder right now. Like we
Yeah,
can see that
that's
there's
fair.
a clear tendency, and so why not just gamble a little bit and be like, especially with monies. I think you can't do it with any opera, but with monies, he's gonna peek
Yeah.
anybody and do like some crazy shots and can get some crazy openings. So to me, they can also define a little bit how G2 is gonna be as a team to give them a bit of identity that it didn't necessarily have before, ever since they got put together. And so I think this is a good thing when you have an upper that is that fast of that caliber, to get entries that other snipers couldn't necessarily. So I kind of like the idea because it's a bit of a different approach, and like in a meta that is so city-sided, then yeah, send your upper first. And then you have players anywhere that can fuck shit up. Like you have Nico behind, that's gonna like turn around if needed in a 4 and 5. You have Jackson and Alexi that are gonna take space.
Hunter's gonna get
and you have
his
Hunter.
one
gonna be
kill,
consistent.
one stupid kill that doesn't look like it's important, but it's super important.
Exactly.
Somewhere in the middle of the map.
And so
I
to
wonder
me,
how much-
it's an interesting approach. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think you can really use that very efficiently. To be honest.
Okay, I think we were kind of sorry.
Just to finish this off, this point, I do wonder how much this is a direction of the team specifically, kind of like given to Modesty, or if they're just like do whatever you want and we're just going to work around you. You know that I'm wondering about that, because
I like Nathan's theory, but yeah, it's curious, right?
That's the thing, right? Like obviously, like if you have a guy open up, like you have the people to finish off rounds. Like obviously you have Nico and Hunter who are just like insane at mid rounds and just like making sure that there is space created on somewhere on the map, and then it's more the calling and like the end round that is a problem for G2 sometimes, where they overthink things, they over rotate to a different site after they've gotten a couple of entries on the other side and stuff like that. That's more like where I see G2's problems, not the mid routing. So I wonder about like what the philosophy behind that is, or if there is even one, or if it's just Modesty kind of like running around and doing, having freedom.
Okay. I think I know where Prof was going with this. We've been going for quite a while now.
Yeah. So my final thoughts is, what do you think about this? We decided on everything. Now we just do like one last chance kind of swap. I'll put one in, and then if we do a raise of hands, virtual hands,
okay,
and see what you guys think. And I actually, thinking about it, I am down to replace Vitality with ENCE.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
You could give us. Are you gonna give us a why? Or are we just doing hands raised?
I mean, we obviously talked like about the negatives of ENCE, but we also know the positives. We didn't. This is kind of shit from us, because last episode we also didn't talk about ENCE really. We just like took it for given, and they had like a good EPL run that we didn't talk about that much, and they had a Blast Showdown run that we didn't talk about much. They have been really, really good. Like overall, they are number 3 in the world for a reason. So. I don't think I need to talk much about that. I just think for Vitality, I'm not really sold that they can beat these like elite teams yet. I know they've played some of them close. I know they have Zaiwu, and I know things are kind of clicking better and better. But I don't know. I'm not really super sold. That's it. I'm slightly more sold on ENCE, even though I see this whole storyline that Striker kind of explained.
This is the problem. I don't want to convolute things any more than they already are.
Just raise the hands. Do you want the swap, or do you want the stick? Stick or swap?
I'd say no for Vitality. Maybe if you offer another team.
If you offer big, I'd consider.
I can't offer big. Big is off the table. Right? Okay, you're not. You're out.
Vitality,
I'm out.
You're not buying. Okay.
I'm not buying.
Recently, Vitality has only lost to Navi and FaZe, which is number 1 and 2 in the world. So it's like hard actually to see the.
We also lost Striker. left.
He left. He didn't like it at all.
Okay, Sponge. Do you want to do you have something you want to adjust here?
The only thing is the only conversation that I'd have about Big is the fact that like Crimbo was one of their best players to
Yeah.
get them to this stage of competition, and that means that if we're putting faith in him to do it again, which we definitely can, I'm not saying we can't. It means that he's like a phenom, right? It means that he's like fucking mega legit immediately. Which is,
Yeah,
if we're saying that,
I don't think the thing is, he's gonna be worse than that, but he's gonna be good enough. If that
Okay.
makes sense, because they're not gonna go 3-0. They're gonna go like whatever, probably 3-2 if they go through.
Okay. Yeah. Look,
But like, if you want to just go boring and replace Big with ENCE, we can do that.
well,
it's just
Big's
gonna be
our
like-
only real like weird pick. Well, it's not even weird, right? But we're putting faith in them
Yeah,
keeping that
those are the
form.
favorites.
Yeah, right. And
Overall, so it cannot go that way because of the way that the system is. I think it's very unlikely that all the favorites are going through. So I think it would be. I don't know. I mean,
No, you're
Cloud9
right,
maybe
it's
could
very
be
unlikely.
replaced.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean,
Cloud9, maybe like yeah.
fuck it, let's just leave it as it is, because we could be here all night going
Okay,
back
yeah,
and
fair
forth
enough,
with all
yeah.
this. And this isn't even our pick'ems. This is Lucas's pick'ems, and he's gonna fucking change this shit as soon as we're done right here. I can
Oh, I
guarantee
can
that.
change him?
Because he's gonna
No,
not
you
right
can't.
now.
No, you can't.
You
You
when
have to
we're
look
off
in there.
camera, because I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna put fucking Copenhagen Flames all over this shit. It's guaranteed. It
Especially
is.
in the 0-3.
It, it is guaranteed. All right, boys. We've done an extended one here, and as we knew, we could have gone and talked shop about this forever, right? We could have talked all night. We could have done the bloody 5-hour show just talking about the nuances and the details and everything we've seen. And this is the point we're at. We didn't even get to the recent news where we could have spoken about some of these other bits and bobs like OG, EG, and Dignitas. I think we'll just save that until after. We'll do a fallout with all like the news that we missed because there's just so much to discuss, right? We might have to do an extended show or maybe do 2 shows the week after the major or some shit. I don't know.
Or,
But, like-
or no shows at all, maybe as well. Maybe just stop doing the shows, and maybe the
Lucas
last
just
show.
literally
over.
just, like changed up his entire thing.
Maybe
to-
the last show that we ever do is gonna be the live show in Antwerp, and none of you dweebs bought the ticket, and you're never gonna see us again. It's gonna be the end. So
That would be
maybe-
sad. Will Martin keep paying me or like do
I think so. Yeah. I think
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, no one. You just send in the invoices. They're probably gonna get paid.
All right. Yeah. No one's going to check those. All right. Well, look, yeah, this has been a long one. And I think we'll draw it here because as I mentioned, we'd go around the round. Look, Nathan, thank you very much for joining us. I want to give you like a bit of a platform right now. I don't know if you want to have any shout outs for anybody watching or if there's any messages that you want to send to people watching at home or the overall community, or if there's anything that you would like to say, now would be your opportunity to do so.
If there's a team that wants to sign me, I'm here. That's it. We keep it simple and peace and love. Everyone love each other, and that's it. That's
Beautiful.
all we need right now.
Beautiful. Nice little pitch right there. Yeah. If you're interested, you know where to find the guy. And everybody playing at home right now, if you didn't buy a ticket, as Prof mentioned, you will have to watch from home. You'll still be able to come to the venue, right? You'll still be able to come to the venue if you want. It's Outpost in Antwerp. If you are coming to Antwerp, you'll still be able to come to the venue. We're going to be there setting up early. And then afterwards, we'll probably hang around and have a couple of drinks and whatnot and just socialize a little bit. We know that a lot of the people from the broadcast crew have been asking me if they're going to be able to come on in, and we have a bunch of spare spots available. So yeah, we might have a couple of people who are doing the broadcast who will be down there for the potty as well. So if you want to come on down to Outpost, maybe they can even put the podcast on live in the upstairs area. I haven't been there. I don't know what it looks like. I'll have to ask Jacob Pimp Vinicky. But that's the show going on next week, Wednesday, live. Hopefully not too many technical issues. If there is, please bear with us. We'll do our best to offer you guys the best we can. This is the first time we're doing this. And yeah, big shout out to the sponsors as per the usual, Bitskins, Xtrfy, and N1Bet. This is the Challenger stage concluded. This is a little bit of a look at what to expect from the Legend stage. Prof and Striker, say your goodbyes.
Maybe I won't.
Wow. Okay. Staying mysterious. And thank you for tuning in again and checking out what we were thinking as the evening was going to progress. Good night, sleep tight, and we'll see everybody tomorrow for the Legend stage of the PGL Antwerp Major for 2022. Good night.
Bye, guys.
Add some Fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Stuck ranking up? Lost the motivation to grind? Bored of clicking heads on aim maps? Get some color into your game. Bitskins.com. Buying and selling skins made easy. Tons of payment methods and instant cash outs. Just choose your dream skins, select your preferred payment method, and start grinding again. If you want to play like the pros, you gotta look like the pros.